Chapter 1355. I don't know if I should ask. Senior, what kind of fate do you have with the blood-winged black mosquito? You have two souls living in one body. It's not as simple as two souls living in one body, is it? Swordsmanship said with surprise in his eyes. The woman's shadow shook her head helplessly and smiled bitterly. I knew you would ask this question. I believe you won't be at ease until you figure it out. Senior, you've stopped one Taoist priest from exploding himself. You've already made your stand clear. How can I doubt you? Swordsmanship said sweetly. I'd be a fool to believe you. The woman curled her lips and then looked up. She said sadly, when Taoist priest and I were both primitive monsters, fierce beasts. My foundation may not be as strong as the blood-winged black mosquito, but my teacher fixed this shortcoming of mine. Speaking of teacher, the woman's shadow looked sincere and bowed to the sky. That was also the beginning of the cultivation tribulation. I was tainted by the mortal world and controlled by someone. I was supposed to return to the West like my fellow disciples. But the blood-winged black mosquito took advantage of this and swallowed my body. The woman's shadow clenched her teeth and said, the blood-winged black mosquito's cultivation was much lower than mine. The gap between us in the primordial spirit realm was huge. If I wasn't restrained by external forces, how could the blood-winged black mosquito do anything to me? I see. Swordsmanship understood. Although the blood-winged black mosquito swallowed my body by chance, my primordial spirit also entered the body of the blood-winged black mosquito with my body. It gave me a chance to live, and even gave me a chance to possess the fierce beast. However, although the fierce beast's foundation was shallow, its foundation was strong. As a primordial fierce beast, it was born and bred. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get what I wanted. But my primordial spirit was always stronger than the mosquito's, so it was impossible for it to refine me. Because of the calamity, my primordial spirit has always been restrained by the sage. Before this beast dies, even if I want to, I can't break free. We've been entangled like this. In the beginning, our two primordial spirits would often fight each other. Later on, I knew that there was no hope for me to escape, so I couldn't be bothered with him anymore. I would only come out to cause trouble when he was comprehending the great Tao, or when he was on the verge of a breakthrough. Strictly speaking, after so many years, the progress of this mosquito's cultivation is actually relatively limited. He never dares to rashly make a breakthrough, because once he does, he will attract the heavenly tribulation. Under the heavenly tribulation, if I cause trouble for him, he will only end up turning into ashes. Only when his cultivation reaches the point where he has no choice but to make a breakthrough, and the heavenly tribulation is unable to do anything to him, will he make a breakthrough. The woman's virtual shadow said indifferently, it has continued like this until today. Finally, I've been waiting for an opportunity. It's injured and exhausted. It has no other choice but to self-destruct. But how can I let it self-destruct when it has no other choice? Wouldn't that kill me as well? I see. Swordsmanship didn't know how many times he had said these words today, but he still couldn't help but yearn for these secrets of the antiquity times. Ordinary people had enemies. After a few years or decades, even if they didn't die, their enemies would die. Even for cultivators who had stepped into the Tao, it would only take them a few hundred years at most. But look at the powerful figures in the antiquity times. They couldn't help but admire them. A grudge, a layer of karma, had been going on for hundreds of thousands of years, even millions of years without ending. Until today, people didn't even remember the world they were in, not to mention them. They were still entangled in grudges, fighting endlessly. That this perseverance, this mentality, that it really made me rejoice in their misfortune. By the way, among the treasures seized by the mosquito Taoist, is there anything that you used to carry with you? Swordsmanship asked. The woman's virtual shadow smiled and looked at Swordsmanship lovingly. She said, you're a clever girl. You want to use this method to spy on my roots. Unfortunately, when I died, my belongings were already taken away by the Western religious sect. This mosquito was not strong enough to take my treasures. I see. Swordsmanship couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Then, in the space of the Tower of Emptiness, the woman's virtual shadow actually began to teach the couple how to improve their cultivation. As for Wuxia's cultivation methods, tactics, and hammering skills, the woman praised him and gave him many suggestions. Every time she pointed out the key points. The more Wuxia Duo learned, the more he felt that this woman was truly unfathomable. Not to mention the two of them, even his parents, and even Great Flood, which were inferior to this woman in terms of knowledge and experience. Even the most powerful cultivators in the astral souls, such as Chan Sheng and Elder Wan, were inferior to this woman. Probably because of the fear of the unknown, Wuxia Duo became more and more surprised and scared. Such an existence could actually be schemed to death back then. Then what kind of dangerous world was the so-called Great Desolate World? Now those experts from back then had all returned. Moreover, after so many years of tempering, their strength had probably increased greatly compared to back then. What kind of enemies would the human clan of the astral souls have to face? Occasionally, they would ask her name, but the woman's virtual shadow would still smile. In the end, she had no choice but to say, "You're my saviors. You don't have to call me senior. If you want, you can call me Sister Yin." Sister Yin. Sister Yin. Wuxia Duo and Wuxianyan were, of course, obedient. They called her Sister Yin sweetly and respectfully. After all, for such a powerful cultivator, even if her body had been dead for countless years, her primordial spirit still existed. Her eyesight, experience, and knowledge were many times better than others. The direction of your cultivation is basically correct. Sister Yin guided the two of them in the Void Extermination Tower for a whole year. She had been correcting them in various ways. Finally, she talked about improvement. To be honest, she was really surprised. She was surprised from the bottom of her heart. Especially when she knew the real age of Wuxia Duo and Wuxianyan, she was even more shocked. How could they reach the Daluo realm at such a young age? Is this still the untainted world that I'm familiar with? The untainted world could easily be tens of thousands of years old. Any cultivator with a little bit of fame would feel embarrassed to talk about it if they did not have tens of thousands of years of cultivation experience. According to Sister Yin's knowledge, only the disciples of the major sects during the investiture of the gods could be compared with Wuxia Duo and Wuxianyan. However, most of those disciples were famous for the treasures and secret techniques they inherited from their masters. When it came to cultivation, they could not be compared with Wuxia Duo and Wuxianyan. In fact, the difference between them was like heaven and earth. With such good seedlings in front of her, Sister Yun's own inheritance also adhered to the idea of teaching without discrimination. She really put in all her effort to teach Wuxia Duo and Wuxianyan. It was no different from teaching a disciple. Thanks to Sister Yun's guidance, Wuxia Duo felt as though his combat prowess had increased by at least one-fold. This was also related to the atmosphere and environment of the world. Based on the original geography and geology of the astral souls, cultivators who had reached the Daluo realm were already outstanding. They were at the top of the world and could not use their full strength. Otherwise, it would be easy to cause a catastrophe. In other words, Daluo realm cultivators should either not use their full strength. Even if they did, it was best not to use their full strength. This layer of shackles indirectly made it difficult for Daluo realm cultivators to improve. Otherwise, the three continents had been fighting for a long time, and there was only one, the Flood Witch. Yes, Father Zhua and Mother Zhua's final progress was largely due to the transformation of the mortal world. In addition, Wuxia Duo had given them an additional surprise. It could be said that it was a gift from the heavens. As for Sister Yin, she was an almighty during the time of the investiture of the gods. She did not scoff at the top of the three continents, the astral souls and the other continents. With her knowledge, she was able to guide and correct Wuxia Duo and his wife's path of cultivation. Naturally, they were able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. Even so, the breakthroughs and improvements that Wuxia Duo made in the past year were still inconceivable to Sister Yin. She found it hard to comprehend. In her opinion, Wuxia Duo's rate of improvement could only be described as unorthodox. However, she had personally inspected Wuxia Duo's cultivation. Although it was not an orthodox martial art, it was still the same as the legacy of the celestial sect. It was definitely not an unorthodox martial art. This was strange and bizarre. Your path of cultivation is not wrong. Your combat strength is also very impressive. Although you would be soft-hearted occasionally, under the influence of your weapon, such soft-heartedness is not a big deal. Sister Yun smiled and said, "This weapon of yours can be said to be the most merciful weapon. Therefore, I do not have any good suggestions for your path. Your foundation is very solid, and you are moving in the right direction. All you need to do is to work hard and run forward step by step." Xiaoduo. Sister Yun's evaluation of Zhuo Xiaoduo was very high. Zhuo Xiaoduo was beaming with joy. Zhuo Xiaonian also felt proud and smiled. As for you, little Nianer, Sister Yun's expression was somewhat serious. You really do not have any memories? Not even the slightest bit. I really don't. Zhuo Xiaonian widened her eyes. How can I have any memories? I am not another person. You don't know. The ice flame in your body has a strange origin. It is somewhat strange. If it is not the primordial phoenix's child, then it is the ancestral Tao's backup plan. Sister Yun frowned and said to the two of them, "Because of this, the two of you should be more careful in the future." Zhuo Xiaonian's heart suddenly trembled. Zhuo Xiaoduo instantly became nervous. He quickly asked, "Will there be any problems? Will my wife be taken back by them?" Chapter 1356. That's not necessarily the case. Sister Yin smiled. The so-called scheme is ultimately just a part of the plan. Now that you and your wife have attained the grand heavenly realm, your cultivation base alone, and considering your young age, is more than just shocking. Such progress will definitely exceed the expectations of the person who laid the plan. 99% of the original plan will fail. The bigger the fist, the bigger the reason. Even in the primeval age, this phrase is still a saying of wisdom, an undefeatable iron law. I understand. I will work harder in my cultivation. I will not let my wife run away. Zhuo Xiaoduo breathed a sigh of relief. But little Nianer, you have a fatal weakness. Sister Yin sighed. Soft-hearted. Soft-hearted. Yes. Perhaps in the eyes of ordinary people, you are already ruthless and merciless enough. However, when faced with these old things from back then, it is too easy to arouse your pity, or perhaps a sense of acknowledgement. Almost all the old people of our time were experts at manipulating people's hearts. When facing such enemies, it is too easy for people like you to sympathize with them. But, once such emotions appear, it is a sign that you will be defeated, and you will never be able to make a comeback. You must pay attention to this. In the Eldritch era, apart from one's own camp, there is no affection to speak of. Back then, we used to respect our senior uncles and senior uncles. We listened to their orders and obeyed their orders. But, when it comes to the cataclysm, when it involves our fundamental interests, we are still afraid that we are not ruthless enough. At this point, she suddenly felt a sense of loss and sighed softly. They are really merciless. Zhuo Xiaonian took a deep breath and said, I understand. Sister Yin smiled and stroked Zhuo Xiaonian's hair. Kindness is a good thing, but kindness in battle is taboo. No matter who it is, no matter what relationship you have with them, as long as they stand against you, what you need to do is to kill them. Kill them without hesitation. That is the greatest respect to the word enemy. Yes, I'll remember it. After saying that, Sister Yun's mood turned gloomy. She remained silent for a long time, seemingly lost in thought. Now, it's no longer the world I'm in. Master, senior brother, junior sister. Where are you now? I wonder if I'll be able to see you again in this lifetime. After obtaining the Tao connotation of the Great Way from Mosquito Taoist priest, a great amount of luck, many scraps of the root bone, and a large amount of essence blood, the Tower of Void Extermination had a great change again. Now the difference between the time flow inside the Tower of Emptiness and the time flow outside was as large as 3 years. After devouring Taoist Wen's soul, Bai and Jiu grew up a lot. Although they still looked like babies in their human forms, when they turned into gourds, they looked like melons that were about to ripen and fall off. In short, they were full of texture and very pleasing to the eye. In addition to the changes in their appearance, the power they could exert was at least 10 times stronger than before. Their combat strength was off the charts. God-slaying spear Yin Shirsi also benefited a lot. Not only did he absorb all the death chi and devil chi from Mosquito Taoist priest, but he also absorbed a part of Mosquito Taoist priest's soul power. Not only did he complete the transformation, but he also improved. After this battle, Xiao Duo's foundation was also strengthened dozens of times. With a casual spit of his mouth, he could freeze the space thousands of meters in front of him completely. This kind of extremely cold air seemed to have reached a certain limit. It was slowly evolving into an ice flame through a kind of qualitative change. However, when the little guys recalled that the 3 lotuses had been devoured, they pouted and looked very aggrieved. As for Xiao Duo, during this period, apart from growing up a lot, he didn't show any signs of becoming smarter. Sometimes he acted muddle-headed, and sometimes he even seemed a little deranged. At first, so Xiao Duo was concerned about this. However, according to Huang's sword, this was probably a sign that the 7th prince was about to regain his memory. Now many disorderly memory fragments were intermittently recalled, causing Xiao Duo's memory to be chaotic. However, this kind of thing could only depend on himself to slowly adapt and force himself to get through it. There was little room for external forces to control it. When he got through it, perhaps the wise and powerful 7th prince of the demon clan, Yi Qiong, would officially return. Yi Qiong. Zhou Xiaoduo expressed his heartfelt dissatisfaction with this name. What a lousy name. It's dumb and poor. It doesn't even have a good name. Zhou Xiaoduo expressed that he didn't have the strength to complain. I really don't know if the demon emperor and his wife are good at naming. Not only did they give their son a dumb name, but they also called him poor. Xiao sounds better. Huang's sword was the one who really didn't have the strength to complain. The name you gave. How dare you praise yourself? You're a textbook example of a bad name. How dare you make fun of other people's names? How could there be such a shameless person in the world? Forget it. I already knew that this guy was extremely shameless. It's not a matter of a day or two. It's meaningless to complain about it. There's nothing new about it. Comparisons are odious. Names are worthless. I don't want such an inauspicious name. His name will be Xiao from now on. It must be Xiao. Zhou Xiaoduo said resolutely. Huang's sword flew back with a whoosh, trying to digest its benefits. Although the sword of Empress Enviwa didn't get any of those treasures, and the sword of Empress Enviwa didn't get any of the benefits from the creation disc, she still got a lot of heavenly merit after killing Taoist One. Most of these virtues were concentrated on the sword of Empress Hua. This made the Huang sword's strength improve to a certain extent. Huang's sword wasn't greedy. For an innate spirit treasure like it, being able to break through the inherent bottleneck and break through was already extremely precious. It was clear about its roots, and it was even more clear about its level. At its level, it would be extremely difficult for it to advance by even a millimeter. Now that it could improve so much, what was there to be dissatisfied about? Besides, even if those guys come back, I'll take Xiao Bai Jiu, Yin Shirsi and Xiao with me. We'll gang up on them. Who can withstand it? Who else? Whenever Sword of Empress Enviwa thought of her awe-inspiring look, she couldn't help but laugh. Life was getting better and better. So Xiaoduo patrolled the area as usual. Except for some spiritual herbs that were damaged during the battle, nothing else was lost. In short, everything was improving, becoming stronger, and developing in a good direction. Unexpectedly, he couldn't help but have a feeling that I am now invincible in the world. However, this good attitude was shattered by Sister Yun's words. Should I say it or not? My senior and junior brothers can beat you up in one move. One move. Beat me up. So strong. Zhou Xiaoduo seemed to have calmed down. However, he couldn't hold back his curiosity and asked, If you're so strong, can you tell me your name? Open my ears. Little brat scram. Sister Yun scolded him without holding back. This little bastard, after being together for more than a year, he had never stopped trying to find out about her background and identity. The more setbacks he faced, the more courageous he became. He was tireless, defeated in every battle, and defeated in every battle. Such a despicable little thing. If it was in the past, they would have captured him back to Golden Turtle Island and beaten him up together. 800 times a day. Their senior and junior brothers had a lot of heads. They didn't believe that they couldn't beat him up. Let's go out. It should be about time. Swordsmanship calculated the time. Almost 1 day has passed in the outside world. Even if there are people who came to check this place out, they should have left by now. That's true. Swordsmanship was starting to panic. The flow of time inside this heavenly abode of yours is different compared to the outside world. Sister Yun was surprised. We have been here for more than 1 year. But only 1 day has passed in the outside world. Who was Sister Yun? Naturally, she knew what a space-type magic artifact was. Back in the day, the difference in the flow of time inside and outside the heavenly abode was the most basic of operations. However, the difference in the flow of time inside and outside the heavenly abode was too big. Additionally, wasn't this heavenly abode a little too big? This was beyond the scope of a blessed heavenly abode. It could even be considered as an independent little world. Ever since I fused many of Taoist mosquitoes' fragments into this space, 3 years inside the heavenly abode is only 1 day and 1 night outside. At present, we have been here for almost 2 years. But in truth it is only around 20 hours outside. Swordsmanship felt smug and he bragged. At any rate, it was rare to see such a look of shock on Sister Yun's face. Sister Yun could not stop herself from sucking in a breath of cold air. She couldn't help but be shocked by the difference in the flow of time. This kind of treasure was almost comparable to the private domain of a saint. And yet such a treasure had fallen into the hands of a mischievous kid who was only at the grand immortal stage. Was this a stroke of luck? Or was this a pearl cast before swine? Let's go out and have a look. Sister Yin, right now, our foundations are very. Swordsmanship was still feeling puzzled. I have suppressed my primary essence for who knows how many times. Why does it sound like my primary essence is even weaker compared to your primary essence back then? What is that supposed to mean? Why is there such a big difference? It's very simple. The current rhythm of this world is vastly different from the past where you were born. After exiting the void extinguishing tower, Sister Yin looked at the world before her. The mountains and rivers. A look of frustration appeared on her face as she said, back then, the worldly spiritual energy here was tens of times, no, hundreds of times more than this world's spiritual energy. How are you going to compare? Chapter 1357. That is only for ordinary places. Take the blessed lands and grotto heavens as an example. The spiritual energy, there is thousands of times greater than that of the ordinary world. Let's put it this way. Back then, by inhaling the spiritual energy of an immortal's abode and not dying, ordinary humans would be able to live a long life of 100 years without suffering any calamities. You once asked me whether the so-called immortal peach and ginseng fruits in the legends really exist, and whether they can really make people immortal and have the same age as the sun and the moon. Now I'll tell you that they do exist. Not only that, just by smelling the smell of the ginseng fruit, you can increase your lifespan by 360 years. This is not a mystery, it's common sense. For ordinary humans, if they were to live for 1 hour within an immortal's abode and not die, they would be able to transform their bodies and possess a considerably high talent for cultivation. Those are things that you people cannot comprehend or even imagine. However, back in ancient times, they were still common knowledge, the most common of things. So that is how it is. Swordsmanship nodded his head repeatedly. Then, he was unable to stop himself from revealing a look of longing. That kind of environment was truly the life of an immortal. If only I could go to that place. There is no need for you to be so envious of others. Take this space-type magic treasure of yours for example. What is it called again? Void Extermination Tower? What a terrible name. It is so terrible that people do not even want to mention it. Sister Yin ridiculed him. For such a wonderful treasure to be given such a name, seriously. Cough cough. Please continue. There is no need to mind these minor details. It is just an example. For example, the spiritual energy within this space of yours is undoubtedly much stronger compared to the outside world. At the very least, it is hundreds of times stronger. Ordinary humans who enter this space of yours will not be able to obtain any benefits. Instead, they will be unable to withstand the unprecedented amount of spiritual energy, and their organs will rapidly deteriorate. Do you understand? Sister Yin smiled. Thus, for many ordinary humans, the so-called immortal destiny is just a difficult calamity to overcome. However, once they overcome it, they will be able to ascend to the heavens in a single bound, transcending the mundane. I understand. Xiaoduo nodded his head. Although he didn't have a clear understanding of this point, he still knew that an old ginseng could kill a person if it was eaten. Sister Yun's primordial spirit was in a floating state. She could only stay by Zhuoxianyan's side. She did not possess the ability to walk. It was unknown what kind of shackles had been placed on her primordial spirit. Even after so many years, she had not been able to break free. Xiaoduo and Zhuoxianyan, together with Sister Yin, soared into the sky and headed east. As Xiaochen advanced through the vast clouds, the wind howled. Thousands of mountains and rivers flashed by under his feet. Sister Yin, how can you break free from the shackles of your primordial spirit? Xiaoduo asked with concern. However, no matter how many times he asked, he did not receive any reply from Sister Yin. He couldn't help but turn around to take a look. Sister Yun's face was as pale as paper. Her eyes were fixed in a certain direction. Tears flowed down from her eyes like pearls from a broken necklace. However, the moment the tears flowed out from her eyes, they turned into smoke. Her body was trembling so violently that she was almost unable to maintain her silhouette. It looked as though she would collapse at any moment. Zhuoxianyan quickly sent out a stream of her divine sense to help Sister Yin stabilize her mind. At the same time, she ensured that her silhouette would not dissipate. She felt puzzled. What is going on? Xiaoduo turned his head and saw a sword light in the distant horizon. The sword light connected the heavens and the earth, illuminating all directions. The sharpness and brilliance of the sword could only be unbreakable and unbreakable, only domineering and resolute. Even though they were hundreds of thousands of li away, they could still clearly see the magnificent sword light that connected the heavens and the earth. It was splendid and magnificent. Xiaoduo could not stop himself from sucking in a breath of cold air. Who is this? Just by looking at the sharp sword light, Xiaoduo felt as though his entire body was being cut apart. Xiaoduo could clearly sense that if he were to fight against this sword light, all it would take was a flash of sword light to turn him into ashes. The sword light flashed for a good quarter of an hour before disappearing. Even so, Sister Yin continued to stare blankly at the sword light. Her body was still trembling. After a while, she suddenly crouched down and covered her face with both hands as she sobbed bitterly. She cried without caring about anything else. It was as though she was a child who had been bullied outside and had suddenly reunited with her parents. That feeling of grievance instantly poured out. She could not stop it. She covered her face and pursed her lips like a little girl who had been bullied. Master. 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 She sobbed. Master. Xiaoduo and Zhuoxianyan looked at the spot where the sword light had disappeared. They could sense the fearless sword intent that faced the heavens and the earth. It was as though they could sense the powerful will of the sword's owner. They could hear only one sentence. I am back. There will be no wavering. There will be no retreating. Those were the words that the sword light was declaring to the world. He was making a promise. To the heavens and the earth. To everything. An oath. A declaration of war. Master. Sister Yin cried out hoarsely as tears rolled down her cheeks. She stood up, her eyes still staring at the sword light. There was a look of determination on her face. I want to go back. My master is summoning me. I want to go back. I want to go home, Sister Yin said softly. However, there was a look of determination in her voice. Her eyes stared unblinkingly as she whispered, Xiaoduo, please send me there. As long as you can send me there, I will agree to any conditions. I swear an oath with my Dao heart. I will keep my promises until the day I die. Xiaoduo, please send me back. Xiaoduo was silent. After a long time, he looked at Sister Yun's pleading eyes and slowly said, All right, I will send you back. I do not want to wait any longer. I want to go back now. Go back now. Sister Yin trembled as she looked at the sword light, her face filled with fervor. My master is back. My master is back. My master has returned. Zhuo Xiaoyan supported Sister Yun with one hand. Then, together with Zhuo Xiaoduo, they tore through space and sped toward the sword light. Their objective was clear. The sword light would flash across the sky for a quarter of an hour every 6 hours. Although there was no sound, the sword light continued to illuminate the world. That alone was enough to explain everything. Countless clouds and mists gradually rose from all directions. Countless people, countless living creatures, all of them roared. With their lives, with their souls, they roared with all their might. Let me go. I want to go back. My master is back. In the wilderness, who dares bully the immortals of our Jie sect? There were also some who tried to stop them, ridiculing them. What Jie sect? It was long gone hundreds of thousands of years ago. Even if we go back, what's the point? However, countless living creatures continued to soar into the sky. They resolutely flew toward the sword light like moths to a flame. There was only one goal, one destination. Because of that, countless forces began attacking them midway. Countless battles broke out in the sky, and powerhouses were constantly being killed. At the right time, a 5-colored light shone in the sky. The disciples of Jie sect have returned. Those who dare to stop them will become eternal enemies. They will not rest until they die. The disciples of Jie sect have returned. Those who dare to kill will become eternal enemies. They will not rest until they die. Waves of powerful mental strength surged back and forth in the vast space. Warning from all directions. Zhuo Xiaoduo looked at the vast sea in front of him. Even with his current cultivation base, he couldn't help but smack his lips in amazement. This Jie sect, where did they come from? They were so powerful and crazy. Among the 9 clans, there did not seem to be a Jie sect. But now, from the looks of it, it was as if they were going to become enemies with the entire world. They did not care about the demons. They did not care about the humans. They did not care about the Western sect. They did not care about the Dao race either. They did not care about the spiritual race, the demon race, the Wu people. They even dared to say that they did not care about the heavenly Dao. Where did this bunch of lunatics come from? Looking at the vast sea and listening to the shouts, Sister Yun's expression became more and more excited, more and more urgent, and more fanatical. In her eyes, there seemed to be only the sword light in front of her. She did not even want to talk to anyone anymore. Her eyes were shining. As long as she could go back, even if she died at the place where the sword light came from, she would gladly endure it. No complaints or regrets. Closer. It was getting closer. They had already arrived above the vast sea. Master, I'm back. Sister Yun called softly. As they got closer and closer to the place where the dazzling sword light was, they could see the wind and clouds surging. On the other side, a fierce battle was unfolding. All kinds of ancient ferocious beasts and golden Buddhas were attacking with all their might. And from that direction, there was a group of people fighting to the death, advancing towards the other side. As the battle continued, more and more creatures were bathed in blood. Their heads were separated from their bodies, and their bodies fell into the vast ocean. Colorful lights flashed one after another. From Zhuo Xiaoduo's point of view, it felt like a party was being held in the distant horizon. Red and green lights swayed back and forth. However, screams and roars were shaking the void. There was also a rain of blood pouring down, sprinkling on the world. On an island in the middle of the sea, a green-robed Taoist was standing on the highest peak of the island with his hands behind his back. He allowed the wind to blow his hair and clothes to flutter. The green-robed Taoist had long eyebrows, a tall and straight figure, and a handsome face. There seemed to be the stars in the sky rotating slowly in his eyes. It was impossible to see his specific expression. He just stood there with his hands behind his back, looking into the distance. He seemed to be thinking about something. Or he seemed to be waiting. His gaze seemed to be able to pierce through the boundless void and see the battles that were caused by the return of the celestial race. His hair, which was originally evergreen, had turned white. This kind of white was caused by the exhaustion of the saint's blood. Even he himself could not recover. Perhaps when he was changing, he could change at will. However, once he returned to his original appearance, the white hair would appear again. He was unwilling to recover. Because this was a concern in his heart. They were extremely angry and sorrowful. Chapter 1358. Through the Endless Void. The green-robed Taoist had already seen the fierce battles. However, he did not help. He only waited quietly. He waited for his disciples to return. This was a tacit understanding and also a game. His opponent was also looking at him quietly. You asked me for your disciples, and I released all of them without missing a single one of them. This is what I promised you, and I did it. However, if others don't want them to return and stop them, they can't blame me. After all, that's the matter of the younger generation. Everyone had long been entangled with karma and grudges. Previously, when they were all in the Western sect, there was always a sense of kinship, and they could not really attack. Now that they were returning, there was no more kinship to speak of. If the younger generation wanted to settle the score, could you stop them? To end karma and resolve grudges, life and death were naturally fated. Wealth and honor were in the hands of the heavens. Therefore, he stood there and waited for the disciples to return. If he still needed to personally receive them when they returned, the disciples would probably commit suicide in shame the moment they stepped onto the island. The first battle after Jie School's return, the disciples of Jie School could not return home with their own abilities. That was already the biggest joke in the world. The disciples could not afford to lose face. Their master could not afford to lose face. And that breath was the crux of the schemes of the various parties. Before stepping onto Penglai Island, the saint would not attack. Then, he would leave all the disciples of Jie School behind, before they stepped onto Penglai Island. The four war drums rumbled. Countless factions were stopping the disciples of Jie School, who wanted to return. The number one sect that had shaken the primordial world back, then still had its prestige. Once it was revived, how could other factions survive? Who would dare to let them revive? Naturally, they had to do their best to strangle the last bit of life. In the sky, a majestic palace flashed. Countless lightning bolts descended and struck the people of the various factions that blocked the way. At the same time, countless lightning bolts descended and struck the returning disciples of Jie School. The sky was also in chaos for a while. All sorts of classic curses appeared in an endless stream. The many experts who suddenly appeared, who were suspected to be heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals, formed a situation of internal strife. They each led their own troops and fought each other. Fuck your ancestors. You're not human. Despicable traitor. Bastard. Who had ever seen immortals fight? The scene in front of him was a real fight between immortals. Moreover, it was a fight between immortals that was particularly crazy. In the blink of an eye, a large number of figures had already descended. All of a sudden, everyone's eyes turned red. Intense rumbling sounds of explosions rose and fell without end, causing the world to shatter into pieces. Even the five-colored divine light was covered by the explosions. Countless numinous treasures were fighting, colliding, exploding and disappearing. As the spirit treasures exploded one after another, the shockwaves spread throughout the world. A painful path was forcefully blasted open, and a golden cloud suddenly rushed into the sky. Then a calm voice sounded. Dipankara Buddha, Junior Brother Samantapadra, Junior Brother Manjushri, Junior Brother Julu-san. Now that we've come this far, do you still want to be stubborn? A heavy voice said. Senior Brother Duobao, you're no longer the exalted one of the world, so how can we not settle our old scores? That calm voice said indifferently. Settle the old scores of the past? All right. Then let's settle it. Buddhas Bodhisattvas, please show me your skills. A sharp and irritable voice said furiously. You still have the face to talk about the past? How dare you talk about the past? A Buddhist chant sounded and a voice said, Kill that peacock first. The irritable voice laughed wildly and rushed to the sky. Kill me? With just a few rotten eggs like you? Come. Whoever takes a step back today is a son of a bitch. Probably because they were still too far away, the deafening sound reached Zhuo and the others. The volume of the sound was already very, very soft. Sister Yin smiled with tears in her eyes, and she muttered, You little bitch, son of a bitch. Did I offend you? The auspicious cloud came very quickly. As it fought, it rushed toward them, unstoppable and majestic. One by one, Golden Buddhas appeared in the sky and joined the team to stop it. However, the auspicious cloud continued to rush toward the other side, forming a straight line, and no one could stop it. Although we suffered a great loss back then, and had no choice but to scatter, now we have to fight our way back in a straight line. We can't deviate even a little bit. A young Taoist in the middle of the group held a long sword. Every time he swung his sword, a pursuer would fall. His sword was fast and ruthless. Another burly man was charging left and right with an unstoppable courage. Those who took the initiative to confront him were all fighting with their bare hands. As long as they had weapons in their hands, their weapons would disappear without a trace after being flashed by his five-colored divine light. However, sometimes he dashed too fiercely, and it was inevitable that his direction would deviate. Then, he would retreat and charge again. Even if he was injured, he didn't care. He shouted and fought with high morale. This is the return of the disciples of the Order of Jia? Zhou Xiaodua watched without blinking. His blood was boiling. Suddenly, the young Taoist in the sky opened his hands. With a loud bang, countless mountains and seas appeared out of thin air. It was a great world that appeared in this world. Following that, countless soldiers and horses lined up in formation in all directions, ready to attack. Enter! Enter! With a shout, all of the enemies that were in his way were sent into this great world. The Buddhist kingdom in the palm. Another legendary divine skill had appeared in the world of mortals. However, all the returning disciples of the Order of Jia were no longer stopped. They rushed into the East Sea. Penglai Island was in front of them. After going through so many hardships and battles, they finally returned as they wished. Boom! There was another earth-shattering explosion on the surface of the sea. The Buddhist kingdom in the palm finally couldn't withstand the full-force attack of countless mighty figures, and exploded. Countless figures appeared in the sky. However, when he looked over, he saw that the disciples of the Order of Jia had already arrived on Penglai Island. This battle had come to an end. Those who attacked rashly would provoke the sect master of the Order of Jia, and get into trouble. All of them put away their weapons and bowed solemnly. Congratulations on your return, senior brothers and junior brothers. We will meet again in the future. The young Taoist turned his head. He seemed to have no reaction to the destruction of the Buddhist kingdom in his palm. His eyes were calm, but there was a hint of coldness in them. He said calmly, "Everyone, the calamity has begun again. Everyone is a guest who is going through the calamity. In the future, the primordial world will be our battlefield. There will be a time for the grudges and karma of the past to be resolved. Let's see how it goes in the future." Senior brother Duobao, why do you have to be so aggressive? Victory and defeat are commonplace. Why do you have to worry about it? Everyone should be at ease. There might be battles, but it's serious when it comes to hatred. Hehe. Even if you have a glib tongue, can you hide the fact that you are shameless? The young Taoist waved his sleeve. Take care. Today is the first time we have returned. Everything on the island is simple and crude. It's inconvenient to entertain guests. Everyone, please go ahead. The people in the air chuckled and bowed towards the top of the mountain. Goodbye, Uncle Master. On the top of the mountain, the green-robed Taoist put his hands behind his back and looked up at the sky. He did not even look at the people in front of him. He said calmly, "From today onwards, I am no longer your Uncle Master." Uncle Master, you are too serious. The return of the disciples today is a joyous occasion. I don't want to lower my status and make things difficult for you. However, it's fate that you came to my Penglai Island. This will be the last time you are safe. In the future, you might be captured, or you might come to the island after killing me. From today onwards, there will be no more Taoist Shangqing. I am the sect master of the Order of Jia. As soon as he said that, the world suddenly trembled. In the void, countless golden lights descended and slowly gathered on Penglai Island. The people in the air quickly retreated after bowing. The young Taoist who was the leader looked at the green-robed Taoist, who was standing on the top of the mountain with his hands behind his back. His eyes turned red, and he slowly knelt on the ground. Disciple Duobao, together with my junior brothers and junior sisters, greets Master. May Master live a long life. Behind him, thousands of disciples knelt on the ground and bowed respectfully. They did not show any negligence. Greetings, Master. Greetings, Grandmaster. The green-robed Taoist was the Grand Master of Heaven, one of the three pure ones, Taoist Shangqing. However, he floated in front of everyone and looked at his disciples in front of him. His expression did not change, but he took a deep breath and said with a trembling voice, "It's been hard on all of you all these years. As long as Master returns safely, I will have no regrets. Duobao, I'm here. From today onwards, you will personally guard Penglai Island. Yes, do as you deem fit. Everyone will rush to help and welcome your junior brothers and sisters back to the island." Yes. Taoist Duobao hesitated for a moment and said, "Many junior brothers and sisters have been taken in as mounts. They are all disciples of the saints. Master, the disciples are indignant." The meaning behind Taoist Duobao's words was very clear. He was asking what to do in such a situation. From today onwards, other than me, the disciples of Jie School don't have to give anyone face in this world. The Grand Master of Heaven emphasized the words anyone. His tone was extremely desolate. "Yes, Master." Taoist Duobao slowly stood up and turned around to face his junior brothers and sisters. He said in a low voice, "Master has returned. The disciples of Jie School have returned. Today, without the consent of the world, Jie School will be re-established. Among the thousands of great Tao, we will seize a chance of survival. Kong Xian. Yes, raise the flag. The rest of you, restore the scenery of Penglai Island and the old green Turing Palace. Tell the world that whoever dares to stop the disciples of Jie School from returning will gather and fight to the death." Yes. Penglai Island was suddenly enveloped by endless auspicious clouds and seven-colored light. The entire Penglai Island was constantly expanding. In the blink of an eye, it had already expanded by more than 100 times. The disciples of Jie School chatted and laughed as they busied themselves. As they laughed, they raised their hands to wipe their tears. Jie School had finally returned. Chapter 1359. Everyone from Jie School tried their best to get busy. Usually, they could clean up the place with spiritual energy, but now, they had to clean it up with their hands. They were back. They were finally back. Although they had gone through a lot of hardships. Although they had gone through many interceptions. Back then 3,000 people had been swept away to the west. Now, less than 1,500 of them could land on Penglai Island. They had lost more than half. That was a heart-wrenching loss. They were all the old members of Jie School. However, they were back in the end. The fellow disciples who had died along the way should be happy, because they had seen hope. They already knew that their master had returned. They could die without regrets. "Junior brother, don't worry. We're back. Jie School will be rebuilt. Master will return as you wish. Senior brother, we're back. Don't worry. Junior sister." Countless incense sticks and candles rushed up from Penglai Island. The disciples of Jie School laughed with tears in their eyes. Now they were just recovering and recuperating. However, it was not difficult to return to the original grand occasion of 10,000 immortals, because Jie School was still around. As long as Jie School was still around. As for hatred, revenge, cleaning up the sect, and so on. Now, they had not reached that stage yet. However, that day was definitely not far away. And at this moment Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaonian escorted Sister Yin to the outside of Penglai Island. The Taoist guarding the door was burly and mighty. It was Supremacy Kong Xian, who had led the disciples to fight in all directions. At this moment, there were many things waiting to be done in Jie School. No one at the door listened to them. There were not many people who knew all the disciples of Jie School. That was why Kong Xian had to wait here. Kong Xian felt that someone had arrived. He was about to ask, "Who are you?" The moment he raised his head, he stood there in a daze. He was completely stunned. Sister Yin smiled with tears in her eyes. "Kong Xian, why? You don't recognize me after seeing me? You were still scolding me just now. Why aren't you saying anything now?" Kong Xian immediately leaped straight up and yelled, "Sister Guiling, it's fourth sister. Fourth senior sister is back. Fourth senior sister is back." His voice was like thunder, shaking the entire Penglai Island. Countless disciples of Jie School appeared. Taoist Duobao jumped out, and even sect leader Tongtian floated out. Everyone's faces were filled with pleasant surprise. It was because the death of the Holy Mother of Turtle Spirit back then was obvious to all. Even the Grand Master of Heaven did not expect that his disciple was still alive, and in the human world. There would be a day when the master and disciple would meet again. Now that he heard that the Turtle Spirit Goddess had returned, he was overjoyed. Master, Sister Yin, who was also the Holy Mother of Turtle Spirit, slowly knelt on the ground in midair. Before she even opened her mouth, tears were already rolling down her cheeks. This disciple has been unfilial. I haven't been able to serve you for many years. This disciple has been unfilial. The Grand Master of Heaven looked at the Goddess of Turtle Spirit, who was in her essence soul state, and sighed softly. You're not unfilial. Back then as your master, I couldn't protect you. Master. The Goddess of Turtle Spirit sobbed. The Grand Master of Heaven raised his hand. An array of green light shot out, and entered the Goddess of Turtle Spirit's essence soul. The power of the saint that had sealed the Goddess of Turtle Spirit, for hundreds of thousands of years, instantly melted like snow and disappeared. A ray of Buddhist light instantly dissipated. You've lost your physical body, and only your essence soul is left. However, after countless years, it might not be a long-term creation. Let's see how Master will reconstruct your physical body, and the great Tao of the universe for you. Thank you, Master. Then, the Goddess of Turtle Spirit turned around, and pulled Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxiaonian over. She said, Master, I've been entangled with the essence soul of the blood-winged black mosquito, and could not escape. Fortunately, this young hero and his wife killed the blood-winged black mosquito. I was lucky enough to escape. When he said that, Taoist Duobao, Kong Xian, and the others suddenly raised their heads, and looked at Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxiaonian. Their eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. This young couple could actually kill the blood-winged black mosquito? Is it so fantastical? With the attainments of Duobao and the others, even if the world collapsed and the continent sank, it would be rare for them to frown. At that moment, they revealed such a shocked expression. It could be said that it was the first time in so many years. Thank you. Thank you for your help. Thank you for sending my senior sister back. Kong Xian held Zhuoxiaoduo's hand tightly, and shook it repeatedly. His gratitude was beyond words. He was really grateful. The kind of gratitude that could not be described. Please take a seat inside. Duobao also had a sincere expression of gratitude. The disciples of Jie School had always cared about each other. After being together for so many years, they were already closer than biological brothers. Seeing the Goddess of Turtle Spirit, who should have died many years ago, appear again, be it Taoist Duobao or Kong Xian, they were so happy that they were about to explode. The Grand Master of Heaven sized up Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxiaonian. Slowly, the expression in his eyes was replaced by interest. He could not see through these two little fellows. It seemed that everything was clear at a glance. Everything was clear, regardless of age, foundation, cultivation base, strength, everything was clear. However, his Tao heart told him that this clarity was false. This was just a facade. However, he could not tell exactly what was fake. That feeling was really strange, but it was real. The Grand Master of Heaven was very sure of that. Little friend, our Jie School owes you this favor. The Grand Master of Heaven sighed. Taoist Duobao and Kong Xian took a deep breath, and their expressions turned solemn. Our Jie School owes you. Perhaps Zhuoxiaoduo did not know yet, but Duobao and Kong Xian knew how important it was for their master to say that sentence personally. It was not an exaggeration to say that the world had been overturned. The Goddess of Turtle Spirit's eyes reddened. She bowed and said, Thank you, Master. She was not thanking the Grand Master of Heaven for the favor he had given her, but for the debt he owed her. Because of her, the entire Jie School owed her a huge favor. That made the Goddess of Turtle Spirit's heart surge. In an instant, she felt that the hundreds of thousands of years of suffering were all worth it. Zhuoxiaoduo did not feel anything. In his opinion, it was nothing more than me saving a person. The elders of this person's sect said that they owed me a favor, and would definitely repay me in the future. But how simple is that? Isn't that just a facade? I understand, I really understand. I seem to have experienced this kind of thing more than once or twice. In the past, the heads of the Wan clan, Xiang clan, Zhen clan, and many other clans seem to have said similar things. They said it with sincerity, certainty, and sincerity. However, in the end, it seemed to be useless. Who asked this young master to improve too quickly? Although the person in front of him was a peak mighty figure in the world, and was many times stronger than the family heads in the past, it was fine to listen to those words. If one took them too seriously, they would lose. You're welcome. Zuo sounded a little uneasy, but he still tried his best to reveal an innocent, kind, and honest smile. It's only right for us to send Sister Yun back this time. We hit it off with Sister Yun at first sight, and can get along well with her. Previously, Sister Yun gave us a lot of pointers in our cultivation, and benefited us a lot. Senior, you said that you owe her something. I don't dare to accept it. We're all friends. Why do you say that you owe her? Taoist Duobao's eyes widened. This fellow. Seems like he doesn't know who my master is? There's actually such a weirdo in this world? Or could it be that this world has forgotten us to such an extent? Kong Xian also turned his head and coughed repeatedly. This little fool, do you know what a huge opportunity you're pushing away? The Grand Master of Heaven really revealed an interesting smile this time, because he realized, this kid really doesn't seem to know who I am. That's interesting. That's even more interesting. Isn't this an iron fool falling from the sky? Little friends, what are your names? My name is Zuo. This is my wife, Zuo. Ahem, she's my parents' adopted daughter. We're not related by blood. Zuo rushed to answer, as if he was afraid that others would misunderstand something. Ha ha ha. Everyone laughed. The Grand Master of Heaven was especially happy. Open the main door of the Green Turing Palace, and invite the two of you in. Xiao Duo and Little Nian are sending the turtle spirit back. This is a huge matter of the sect. We can't neglect it. Duobao, prepare 2 meditation cushions for the two of you to sit on. The Grand Master of Heaven smiled and waved his hand. He grabbed the essence soul of the goddess of turtle spirit, and disappeared first. Kong Xian and Duobao had unprecedentedly complicated expressions. The main door of the Green Turing Palace had never been opened casually. In the past, when the eldest senior brother of Chan's school, Guangqingzi, visited the Green Turing Palace, he had only entered through a side door. Throughout history, there were only 2 martial uncles who could receive his master's personal instruction to open the main gates of the Green Turing Palace. Just this point alone had a very different meaning. It seemed that this kid had immediately won master's favor after sending his junior sister back. Moreover, he had given out 2 meditation cushions at once. What is this? This is a position. A position. Kong Xian's eyes turned red. This little fellow is really lucky. Please. Taoist Duobao waved his hand. Behind him, all the disciples of Jie school lined up neatly on both sides of the road, until they reached the door of the Green Turing Palace. At the right time, 2 white cranes descended from the sky and turned into 2 boys. They were clean and stood in front of the door. Each of them held a horsetail whisk. All the disciples of Jie school bowed at the same time. Welcome, esteemed guests. A hint of nostalgia flashed across Taoist Duobao's face. In his eyes, there seemed to be endless years of smoke that flickered. Back then, if there were guests, the momentum of Jie school. Shaking his head, Taoist Duobao stopped thinking about it and said warmly, please. Chapter 1360. How could this be compared? If the previous black tortoise Dao body was a high-quality flawless white jade, then the current Dao body was the best quality mutton fat jade. How could this be compared? The difference was like heaven and earth. There was no way to compare at all. Kong Xian was so envious that his eyes turned blue. Master really likes senior sister. I'm extremely envious. Damn, my Dao body was destroyed, but I can still have such benefits. Although I'm the first peacock in the world, and the 5-colored divine light rarely meets a match, I'm limited by this body. My highest achievement is only the peak of the sage to be, and it's difficult for me to become a saint. I also want to be like this. Broken. The Grand Master of Heaven's voice sounded with a smile. Kong Xian, if you want to follow suit, it's possible. It's not difficult for me to reconstruct your body. Kong Xian's spirit was lifted. Master, are you serious? The Grand Master of Heaven said. Of course, but the 9 mysterious wood has been used up. I only have a little wudong wood left. Kong Xian's eyes were fixed, and he looked depressed. Then forget it. I suddenly feel that being a peacock is not bad. The 5-colored divine light rarely meets a match. It's quite good. Ha ha ha. Even the goddess of turtle spirit laughed out loud. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at the harmony between the master and disciple, and could not help but smile. He had long forgotten about the previous topic. Inexplicably, he felt that the atmosphere between the master and disciple was similar to the atmosphere between him and Zhou Xiaoyan with his parents. That kind of easygoing, amiable, but mixed with a thick kinship that even the heart and soul could not melt. Thank you for saving me. The goddess of turtle spirit walked over and slowly knelt on the ground. She was actually bowing. Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaoyan were shocked. They wanted to avoid and stop her, but they realized that they could not move at all. They could only passively accept the bow. They could not help but look embarrassed. The prime of Tongtian said slowly, My 2 little friends, you don't have to feel ashamed. You deserve this bow. You deserve it. Then he said, Show me your twin hammers. Zhou Xiaoduo was stunned. Senior, how did you know that I was using a hammer? Then realization dawned on him. Sister Yin must have told you. The goddess of turtle spirit pursed her lips and smiled. Master, do you still need me to say it? What doesn't he know? Zhou Xiaoduo chuckled. He took out his twin hammers and offered them up with both hands. Tongtian looked at it and smiled. He waved his sleeve, and a white light and a black light went into the 9-9 cat hammer. He said, This is the primordial yin-yang qi that I obtained in the past. I'll give it to you. The corner of Kong Xian's mouth twitched again. It was sore. Master, I'm jealous again. Although Zhou Xiaoduo did not want to expose himself, Bai and Jiu went crazy when they saw the primordial yin-yang qi. They lost their rationality and revealed their true forms. They ran out happily without caring about anything else. Bai hugged the white light with a blissful expression. Jiu hugged the black light with a satisfied expression. The moment the 2 gourds came into contact with the primordial yin-yang qi, they transformed again and approached their fully mature state. The Grand Master of Heaven smiled faintly. There was nothing wrong with his expression. Taoist Duobao in Kong Xian's eyes flashed. This is a gourd. Zhou Xiaoduo was speechless. He looked at Duobao and Kong Xian with a look that said, Why are you so surprised? He rolled his eyes and said, Of course this is a gourd. Could it be a cucumber? This gourd looked so obvious. Who could not tell that it was a gourd? These 2 almighties were actually making a fuss over nothing. This is a gourd. Listen to him, he's asking like a retard. Zhou Xiaoduo felt disdain in his heart. Duobao and Kong Xian were speechless. They were all smart people. How could they not know what Zhou Xiaoduo meant? But is that what we mean? This kid was handsome and had delicate features. Everything about him was good except for his mouth. Could it be a cucumber? I really want to ask you how you can say that. Now that I see him, I feel a little itchy. What should I do? The Grand Master of Heaven said to Zhou Xiaoyan, Show me your sword. Then, he waved his hand at the soul-snatching sword. A small ice cube appeared in his hand. The moment the ice cube appeared, the temperature of the entire Penglai Island dropped sharply. Ice Xiao exclaimed, and came out of the soul-snatching sword. The Grand Master of Heaven smiled, and threw the ice cube over. Ice Xiao hugged it excitedly. Crack, 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 crack. The sound of ice freezing could be heard. The Ice Soul Little Duo was actually frozen by that block of ice. Little Xiao Duo hugged the ice cube, and had already merged with the ice cube, as if they were one. Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaoyan widened their eyes. Oh my god! Today was a miracle. The ice spirit could be frozen. Is this a joke? This ice soul's cultivation is still shallow. When it completely digests this piece of ice, its cultivation will be almost enough. The prime of Tongtian smiled and said, You can put it back into the sword to help it digest it slowly. Zhou Xiaoyan did as she was told. Suddenly, she had a flash of inspiration and said, Senior, is this ice cube the first ice cube when the chaos was first created? The Grand Master of Heaven smiled and said, Little girl, you are quite knowledgeable. This sentence was particularly meaningful, and lingered for a long time. Zhuoxiaoyan blushed and said, I don't know why I suddenly had this idea. The Grand Master of Heaven laughed heartily, and his eyes were clear. He said, well, since you have such an opportunity today, if there is something you can't handle in the future, I will help you. The Saintess of Turtle Spirit's body trembled, and she hurriedly said to Zhuoxiaoyan, hurry up and thank my master. Zhuoxiaoyan felt blessed and bowed down. Thank you for your kindness, Senior. The Grand Master of Heaven laughed. Zhuoxiaoyan looked at his spirit-snatching sword, and felt that the frozen little duo's heart was filled with ecstasy that was about to explode. A smile appeared on his face, and the iceberg melted. It was magnificent. Zhuoxiaoyan, on the other hand, was focused on her 99 kitty hammer. She watched the two little fellows, one white and one black, rolling around with the yin and yang energy. She revealed a motherly smile, but it ruined her original handsome appearance. Looking at Zhuoxiaoyan's expression, the Grand Master of Heaven could not help but laugh. He stared at the two gourds for a moment and suddenly smiled again. Then, he waved his hand, and a purple-yellow gourd floated out. Bai and Jiu were stunned when they saw it. Then they shouted excitedly, Fifth brother? The purple-yellow gourd was very surprised by the change in front of it. With a whoosh, a naive young man's face appeared from it. He scratched his head, and looked at Bai and Jiu hesitantly. He said naively, what the hell? You two got married later? What's going on? Back then, wasn't our mother uprooted by Empress Hua? The people around them were overjoyed when they heard this question. So this is how gourds talk to each other? Even though everyone present was knowledgeable and had a good memory, they still felt that their horizons had been broadened again. Well, Zhuoxiaoduo and his wife thought that they were knowledgeable and had a good memory, so they had to explain it here. Bai puffed up his cheeks and rolled his eyes. It's said that it was a withered vine that was uprooted, and the spiritual root was not uprooted. Bad fifth brother. Are you looking forward to our mother being uprooted? You unfilial son. No. I didn't mean that. The purple-yellow gourd was obviously a little naive. It was happy and excited, and its words were not conveying its meaning. Suddenly, it stretched out its hand, and took out two xiaoqilins from the gourd. One was red, and the other was blue. Come look at my partners. We can play together. It lifted the two fist-sized qilins by their necks, as if they were two rabbits. Seeing this, Zhuoxiaoduo couldn't help but touch the back of his neck. Zhuoxiaoyan also subconsciously looked at the back of Zhuoxiaoduo's neck. It was probably because of this scene that both of them had a very familiar feeling, that the three gourds huddled together and whispered something. The two qilins ran between the three gourds, and then squeezed into a corner to talk. The purple-yellow gourd seemed to give something to Bai and Jiu, and it seemed that Bai and Jiu also gave something to the purple-yellow gourd. Anyway, after a while the three gourds shook together and rolled around. It could be seen that these three brothers would be very happy. In particular, the purple-yellow gourd kept sighing. I didn't expect that there would be a female gourd among us. It's so beautiful. It's even more magnificent than the creation of the world. Jiu frowned and tried to persuade it. Fifth brother, we're related by blood. It's impossible for you and Bai to be together. In human terms it's called. What's it called? It's not a good word. It means that it's impossible. The purple-yellow gourd was speechless. Can't you be a little more pure? Where did you learn such filthy thoughts from? Think about our roots. We should be high and mighty, looking down on all living beings. Look at you. You're just messing around with all living beings. Zhuoxiaoduo coughed. He was speechless and sat up straight. At this moment Taoist Duobao said, Master, the current situation. The entanglement of the past. The Holy Mother of Turtle Spirit and Kong Xian pricked up their ears and listened carefully. The Prime of Tongtian pondered for a while and finally said, Forget it. Let's just talk about it today. Xiao Duo and Little Nian are also here, so they can listen together. It's okay to spread my thoughts to the three continents in the ancestral land. Yes. The past, the present, and countless things. The Prime of Tongtian sat on the lotus platform and faced the 5 people in front of him, 3 disciples and 2 guests. Chapter 1361. From the moment the Grand Master of Heaven started to preach, golden lotuses continuously appeared in the void. They floated down and landed on the 5 of them. They slowly disappeared and merged into their souls. It was the saints' Tao preaching. Heavenly flowers fell from the sky. Every heavenly flower had a bit of Tao essence circulating. What happened back then is not right or wrong. The Grand Master of Heaven said slowly, although there are grudges, everything is caused by people. It's different because of emotions. If it's right or wrong, there's nothing. The goddess of turtle spirit was indignant. She said, Master, the 2 from the Western sect. The Grand Master of Heaven sighed softly. They are not wrong. Eldest senior brother has a stable footing and established Ren school. He does not need to scheme, and can exist forever. Therefore eldest senior brother advocates inaction. That's because there's no need for it. The so-called living beings, the so-called races, no matter how they transcend in the end, they will eventually transform into humans. Turtle spirit, why did you transform into a human female immortal when you transformed into a mystic turtle previously? Do you understand the logic behind this? The sect master asked. The goddess of turtle spirit broke out in cold sweat. I didn't think too much about it back then. Only today did I vaguely understand after hearing Master's words. Yes, it's actually very simple. To put it bluntly, it's just people. The Grand Master of Heaven said calmly. For example, the people of the Western sect, the demons, the spirit race, the people of Chan school, and the people of Jie school. Have you ever heard of the Western sect? The spirit of the spirit race? The Chan school of Chan school? The Jie school. Is that so? Never. Even connate life forms will end up in human form when they walk in the mortal world. For example, your junior brother Kong Xian. Could it be that when he's with you, he's always the peacock that shines in the world and often spreads its tail? Also your senior brother Duobao. Taoist Duobao covered his mouth and coughed dryly. He, who had always been calm, actually looked embarrassed. In any case, I have been a Buddha for many years. Master, please leave some face for me. The Grand Master of Heaven smiled. As expected, he did not expose his eldest disciple's shortcomings. Instead, he continued. For example, when the immortals gather, you can't be turtles, peacocks, rats, wolves, worms, tigers, and leopards. Is that scene even worth watching? Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaonian subconsciously made the connection, but they couldn't help but laugh at the scene. He felt that what the senior said was not only vivid, but also humorous. Just a few words were already fascinating. He did not see a black line flash across Taoist Duobao's forehead. In the end, he still couldn't avoid it, although it was rather subtle. But back then, eldest martial uncle's choice was. The goddess of turtle spirit continued. Yes, but that still has nothing to do with right or wrong. The only difference is our standpoint. The Grand Master of Heaven said warmly. From the perspective of Ren school, if Jie school prospers, the living beings will be plunged into misery and suffering. What about second uncle? What your second martial uncle did was to go with the flow. There was no right or wrong. He just happened to stand on your first martial uncle's side. It's said that it was a battle between the Chan school and Jie school back then. In fact, it's a far-fetched generalization. How can there be any benefits to compete between the two sects? Since there are no conflicts of interest, why talk about opposing each other? Back then, during the calamity, our Jie school lost. That's an indisputable fact. However, did Chan school win? Or did they win? The Grand Master of Heaven chuckled. I understand. Duobao and the others nodded. Yes, back then, during the God-confirmant tribulation, it was said that Jie school and Chan school were fighting. Later on, Jie school lost, but Chan school won? Or did they win? Did they prosper? Yes, so back then, you had to think of a word. What is the word Chan of Chan school? Explanation. Then who should you explain it to? Naturally, it's to explain it to living beings. Taoist Duobao was deep in thought. What is the essence of living beings? Humans are the foundation. Yes, at the end of the day, it's always about humans. The Grand Master of Heaven heaved a sigh of relief and said, since everyone has the same destination, there is no right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. All things return to one. It's not just talk. As for the Western sect, Their various methods may be unsightly in our eyes, or they may be despicable and shameless, or they may be unscrupulous. However, think about it from their perspective, it makes sense. If they don't do that, how can they have the hope of rising? If they completely follow the trend of the times, they won't have the chance to preach the Tao to the central planes. Because they are ultimately the external Tao. And the reason why they are unscrupulous and willing to pay any price to make the Western sect prosper is just for their own interests? No. What benefits do they have? Both of them have the indestructible body. What benefits are there to compete for? Tong Tian said in a low voice. The true meaning of what they did was that they had decided long ago. Their doctrines were correct, feasible, and in line with the will of the great Tao of nature. They could enlighten all living beings and save all living beings from torment. Therefore, even if they have to kill countless lives, even if they have to step into hell, they have to do it. They have to press forward with indomitable will. This is the belief in their hearts. They have always believed that they are right, righteous, and righteous. That's why there is the heaven and earth killing tribulation. That's why the Western sect is doing this. Everyone was deep in thought. The Grand Master of Heaven said slowly, and our Jie sect has 50 great Daos, and 49 heavenly Tao, and we have to intercept the one that escapes from this world, and sees a chance of survival. People often say that I teach without discrimination. Even those who don't wear fur and armor can be taken in as disciples. The Grand Master of Heaven said. But if that's not the case, how can we be called Jie sect? If you follow the heavenly Tao, and follow the heavenly Tao, then you are just food for the human race. This is the nourishment of all living beings. You are all food in the mouth. Although living beings reproduce, they can only die in the end and become food for others. And the word Jie in Jie sect comes from this. It is to intercept a chance of survival for the thousands of races that should be on the plate. This is the original intention of the Jie sect. If you are humans in the first place, how can you say that you have intercepted a chance of survival? That's why eldest senior brother said that it was wrong for me to teach without discrimination. Little did he know that his words were also wrong in my opinion. The Grand Master of Heaven said softly, my mistake is that I did not teach. I failed to pass down my morals. That is the foundation. After all, it was an indisputable fact that the immortals of Jie sect wreaked havoc in the primordial world back then. Most of the people who harmed living beings were indeed immortals of Jie sect. This is known to all. There's no need to argue. Taoist Duobao sat upright and pondered. He slowly said, yes. Jie sect is intercepting a chance of survival. The demons also discovered that the main characters of the world had changed after the human race prospered. If they did not fight, they would die. They had no choice but to fight. In their bones, they were fighting for that chance of survival. The Wu people, the spirit race, and the demon race were all the same. The calamity of all living beings is only a chance of survival. The survival of a lineage is just that. Different ideals and different standpoints. There is no right or wrong. At the end of the day, it's all the same. The Grand Master of Heaven's slow voice was like the evening drum and morning bell. He actually expressed his sincere understanding of the actions of the various races. Then what should we do in the future? What's the plan for the reopening of the calamity this time? The goddess of turtle spirit was a little confused. Since everyone is not wrong then. There's no wrong. It has never stopped the immortals of Jie sect from doing things. The Grand Master of Heaven smiled faintly, but his eyes gradually turned sharp. They are not wrong. We are naturally not wrong. Therefore, we will do things based on our own standpoints. We will either suppress the rebels, seek justice, or end the grudges. These are all things that we believe. They owe us. Our ideals are not wrong. There's no mistake. The heart that we uphold is as firm as the Western sect. There's nothing wrong with us intercepting a chance of survival. Right and wrong, it's just a matter of victory and defeat. The Grand Master of Heaven said calmly, for example, Duobao, if you go to Guangqingzi to settle the feud with the fire spirit, you will naturally have your reasons if you win. However, if you lose, it will be good for Guangqingzi to kill you. If you go to Randang to take revenge on Jinling, it will be the same. It will be the same logic. Because there was no right or wrong in the Great Tribulation at that time. It was only about standpoints. Although there was no right or wrong, it did not mean that you could kill for nothing. It's fine if Jia school loses. However, now that Jia school has risen again, those who owe me have to take it back. Once the fairness that we think exists, we will reconsider the world again. Let's re-evaluate the rules of the world. This is the Tao of Jia school. We are not wrong either. The eyes of the three disciples lit up. Their hearts, which had been hanging in the air, were immediately relieved. Yes, we are not wrong. Jia school has no intention of becoming enemies with Chan school. However, we need to find justice. Jia school has no intention of becoming enemies with the Western sect. However, we need to find justice. Jia school has no intention of becoming enemies with Ren school. However, we need to find justice. Jia school has no intention of becoming enemies with the demons. However, we need to find justice back then. The Grand Master of Heaven's words seemed to be repetitive, but the aura in them soared into the sky and surged through the 9 heavens as he said the names one by one. Taoist Duobao heaved a sigh of relief and said in a solemn voice, "Master is right. We won't cause trouble, but we need to find justice in our hearts. Especially the Western sect." Back then the 3 sects signed the God roll. What did it have to do with the Western sect? Since he interfered, he naturally had to pay the price. What does it have to do with the demons, Luya? Everyone pushes a man who is down. Since he pushed him back then, he has to bear the karma today. Luya hihi Luya. The Grand Master of Heaven smiled faintly. He seemed to be implying something, but he did not continue. The atmosphere in the hall became gloomy. At this moment, Zhuo also understood. The Grand Master of Heaven's meaning was very clear. He even had some similarities with his thoughts. That was, "You have offended me. I understand, I know. I can also put myself in your shoes and think about it from your perspective. I don't think there's anything wrong with what you did. However, that does not stop me from settling the score with you. Because I'm not wrong either. Send out all the stocks in what I wrote today. Have a good time and continue to accumulate." Chapter 1362. Yes, you have 1,000 reasons and all kinds of reasons. However, that's just your position. What does your position have to do with me? You ruined my plans and killed my people. I will find trouble with you. Therefore, I hope you can understand me. Even if you don't understand, it doesn't matter. Anyway, you have offended me. I will find trouble with you. Zhuo felt that his train of thoughts and rules were too suitable for him. That was what he should do. However, he did not realize that others thought and did that because of the matter itself. However, the Grand Master of Heaven's actions and words were equivalent to erasing his sins. It was only right for you to deal with me. I took revenge on you, because it was only right for you to deal with me. If you kill me, you don't have to be burdened with sins. If I kill you, I won't be burdened with sins. Therefore, the Grand Master of Heaven added at the end, it's only to settle the karma of the past and future of Jia school. It has nothing to do with all living beings. Not being tainted by karma, and having no future troubles was the key. When Zhuo bade farewell and left, he felt as if he had a dream. After the Grand Master of Heaven finished talking about what happened back then, he began to talk about Tao cultivation. He talked about his own great Tao, and the great Tao of heaven and earth, that it was the first time Zhuo had experienced such a situation. He felt countless insights automatically enter his ears and merge with his divine sense. His cultivation level and divine sense advanced. Countless imprints of the great Tao squeezed over in clumps and piles, that it only ended when his head felt a little swollen, dizzy and stuffy. When he walked out of the green Turing Palace, he turned around and felt a heartfelt longing for the 2 meditation cushions. As for Kong Xian, under Duobao's pleas, he also put down a meditation cushion in the hall. Although he was at the bottom, Kong Xian was so excited that he was incoherent. His rough face was flushed as if he had encountered a great thing. At that time, Zhuo did not understand. However, after listening to the Tao lecture, he understood. He was even envious. That was because they could often sit on that meditation cushion to listen to lectures. However, he did not know when the next time he came to listen to lectures would be. That what he didn't know was that even Gui Ling and Duo Bao were surprised. Master had preached the Tao many times before, but he had never talked about so much content at once. This time, it was as if all the Tao had converged. He only cared about talking and didn't care about how the people below digested it. He and Kong Xian were better off. However, the Holy Mother of Turtle Spirit, who had just returned, felt her head swell as she listened at the moment of departure. The goddess of Turtle Spirit gave Zhuo Xiaoyan a bracelet and felt very ashamed. Since he had just returned, he really didn't have anything with him. And this was something he had just taken from Duobao. Daoist Duobao understood the goddess of Turtle Spirit's intentions. I'll help junior sister buy some clothes for little Nianer. Gui Ling already felt a bit guilty for taking a bracelet from Ji Hao, so she wouldn't accept any more bracelets. However, as the eldest senior brother, it was fine for him to give a gift for his junior sister. Besides, it was given by Duo Bao himself, so Gui Ling didn't owe him a favor, and he didn't need to return it. The goddess of Turtle Spirit naturally understood her eldest senior brother's intentions. She sighed in her heart and was secretly grateful. Duo Bao gave Zhuo Xiaoyan a purple ribbon immortal robe that could be changed at will. This is a cloud that I picked from the chaos back then. I originally wanted to give it to my disciple for her wedding. He sighed and did not continue. He changed the topic and said, "This purple ribbon immortal robe can change according to your wishes. After I refined it again over the years, it's even better at dissipating force. Even if a quasi-saint attacks with all his strength, it can dissipate 3 times. Yes, I also have a bottle of 9 lotus treasure pills here. I'll give it to you and your wife. This pill can correct the great Tao once. There are 9 of them. I think it should be enough. Little Nianer, I'll also give you this jade hairpin. This hairpin can hide from the divination of the heavenly mystery. Even if the heavenly mystery is no longer chaotic, as long as you don't burst out your own power, no one can find your root." This pair of azure sky shoes was the first color of the clear sky that appeared in the world when the world was created. It was kept by the powerful people at that time and made into 3 treasures. One of them was refined into a pair of shoes by my master. Usually, it automatically absorbs the spiritual chi of heaven and earth as a foundation. When it's used, it can move thousands of miles with a thought. It won't damage one's divine sense or consume one's vital energy. Usually, when it's used to travel, it's as easy as moving one's arm. My master gave it to me to travel in the untainted land. However, it's too delicate. I'm a man, so I didn't use it. I'll give it to you too. This is the heart-killing bead. I refined it by observing the sword chi of the 4 immortal killing swords on a daily basis. When I meet a strong enemy, I use it as a trump card. Once hit by it, the heart of anyone below the sage-to-be will be crushed into powder. But remember, this treasure can only be used 3 times. After 3 times, you have to send it back to the Aquamarine Palace to rest before it can be used again. Well, this is the polar ice that was left behind before the chaos was created. It can be used for your daily practice. By the way, when I returned from the west, I brought back the water of the Lotus Pond of Merit. I'll give you a bottle. You can drink it to assist your practice. It's also very effective in healing wounds and detoxifying. I'll also give you a divine thought. It's risky to travel in the untainted land. Although you two have good cultivation, you're still inexperienced. If you encounter any danger, you can activate this divine thought. I'll come to your rescue in the shortest time possible. At that time, I'll practice the art of thousands of incarnations. I don't want to return to my sect, so I'll use it on you too. Zhuo Xiaoyan was not the only one who was dumbfounded. Even Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was watching from the side, was dumbfounded. These were all dream treasures that had never been seen or heard of before. However, this Taoist of many treasures actually gave them all to Zhuo Xiaoyan, as if he was piling rubbish outside. This was no longer giving them one by one. It was simply piling them over here. Regardless of whether it was Zhuo Xiaoduo or Zhuo Xiaoyan, they were not narrow-minded people. A considerable portion of the top treasures and precious materials in the 3 continents were in the hands of this couple. There was no need to mention the spiritual roots, spiritual seedlings, and spiritual fruits. It was enough to say that they were rich. However, it also depended on who they were compared to. Compared to Taoist of many treasures in front of them, he directly made the two of them disappear. There's no need to make a fuss. The goddess of turtle spirit smiled. Why don't you think about it? My eldest senior brother's Taoist name is Taoist of many treasures. As for why he's called many treasures, do you know now? That's because he has a lot of treasures. Xiaoduo was enlightened. So Xiaoduo is not considered a lot. Many treasures are. Finally, Duobao's gift to Xiaonian had come to an end. Xiaonian kept thanking him. Her lips were already numb. Finally, it was Xiaoduo's turn. Xiaoduo's eyes lit up. He walked forward quickly and did not hide his desire. Thank you for sending us off, Brother Duobao. We're leaving now. His meaning was very clear. You've already given my wife so much. You can't be stingy with me, right? Shouldn't you give me piles and piles of them too? Ha 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 ha. Xiaoduo was overjoyed by the anticipation in his heart. Yes, after today, I don't know when we'll meet again. Take care, everyone. Taoist Duobao smiled and said, by the way, there's something I need your help with. It's probably on the way. Help. Help. Xiaoduo was stunned. Are you not going to give me anything? Forget it. I've already given little Nian or so much. However, why are you still arranging for me to work? Isn't the difference in treatment too great? Besides, junior brother, where did the word junior brother come from? Where did it come from? You and Nian have meditation cushions in the Green Turing Palace. You are naturally our junior brothers and sisters. Jia School can recognize this. You don't have to. Taoist Duobao replied with a smile, as if he had seen through Xiaoduo's doubts. There seemed to be another meaning in his tone. Ah! Xiaoduo was even more perplexed. How am I supposed to answer that? Besides, where are the treasures? That's the main point, all right? Junior brother, you will definitely pass through the North Ocean on your way back to the human race from Penglai Island. Taoist Duobao pressed Xiaoduo's shoulder and said, your senior sister Yin Xiao is being suppressed under the Qiling Cliff in the North Ocean. You can go there and save her, and let her return to the Green Turing Palace. Xiaoduo scratched his head and said, senior sister Yin Xiao is being suppressed? It's only right for me to save her. But what should I do? Do you think I can do it with my shallow means? What you have to do is actually very simple. There is an Uncle Master's golden note on the Qiling Cliff that seals the mouth of the heavens. The cloud path is the key. Junior brother, when the time comes you only have to use your full strength and use your 9-9 cat. Taoist Duobao sighed and said, hammer, just smash it with all your might. Unless it was necessary, he really did not want to mention that name. To be honest, let's not talk about how many years I've been in Jia School. Let's just talk about how long I've been Buddha. However, this is the first time I'm so speechless. Could it be that after leaving the Western sect, my calmness has deteriorated? How can I lose my balance so easily? However, to give the supreme grade treasure a name, Taoist Duobao could not help but chant a Buddhist name. Amateus. Sai. Is it that simple? It's that simple. Then, I'm leaving. Xiaoduo hesitated. He stared at Duobao with an expectant gaze without blinking. Go. Then I'm really leaving just like that. Xiaoduo felt that he had been treated differently. His tone and eyes were filled with resentment. Yes, let's go. Xiaoduo could not give up. He tried his best one last time. Senior brother Duobao, don't you have anything to say to me? He blinked his small eyes and tried his best to express. Yes, it was an indication. There was no need to be so ostentatious and overflowing. The goddess of turtle spirit, who was at the side, tried her best to hold back her laughter. Under Xiaoduo's expectant gaze, Taoist Duobao said calmly, of course. Junior brother, have a safe journey. Take care. See you in the future. Ha 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 ha. Kong Xian, who was at the side, slapped his thigh and laughed. He had really reached his limit, and could not hold it in anymore. Xiaonian pulled Xiaoduo. Let's go. Don't embarrass yourself here. Xiaoduo was still looking back. Clearly, he was hoping to be lucky. I'm leaving, senior brother Duobao. I'm really leaving. I'm really leaving this time. Don't keep me. Damn, you really didn't say anything. Chapter 1363. Wuxia's cloud had already disappeared into the boundless sea and sky, but the hidden bitterness still refused to dissipate at the entrance of Bayou Palace. The bitterness was so deep that it could catch up with the wonderful lingering sound that lingered in the air for 3 days. Ha 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 ha. The goddess of turtle spirit and Kong Xian laughed until they fell. They almost could not breathe. Senior brother Duobao, you're really mischievous. You don't lack treasures. What's wrong with giving him too? The goddess of turtle spirit laughed until tears flowed out of her eyes. Look at that kid's last gaze. It's so sad that I can't stand it anymore. Taoist Duobao spread his hands and said, It's not that I don't want to give it to you, but I really don't have any treasures that I can take out. Master has bestowed the Khanate Yin and Yang Qi. Even his spiritual will is hanging on this fellow's body. What else can I take out that can compare to Master's too? There's no need to imitate others like this, right? This kid has clearly taken the greatest advantage, but he's still coveting my ordinary items. He's really too blind. Taoist Duobao was speechless. He wanted to say something, but he could not. Master has given it, but I still want to give it. Could it be that I think Master's gift is not good enough? However, the goddess of turtle spirit and Kong Xian were even more speechless. Ordinary items. Buddha, you're too humble. You're too humble. Yes, when he was interacting with Xiao Duo previously, he often mentioned Versailles in his free time. That was probably the case, right? It's really Versailles. The goddess of turtle spirit could not help but blurt out. Buddha scratched his head. Versailles? What do you mean? Why aren't we the ones saving junior sister Yin Xiao? Do we have to let Xiao Duo go? The goddess of turtle spirit asked in a low voice. Firstly, we might as well let Uncle Master completely stay out of this calamity. If we go, we will inevitably trigger karma. It will also save eldest senior brother Xian, Du, from coming out again. There's no need to have any karma with them. Taoist Duobao said calmly. Secondly, we can owe Xiao Duo more. Owe him more? The Holy Mother of Turtle Spirit and Kong Xian were stunned. Karma is inexplicable. Being able to owe the other party some karma is also a result of fate. Taoist Duobao said leisurely. Go treat your wounds. The 3 of them entered together. Regardless of whether it was Duobao returning east with 3,000 disciples, or the goddess of turtle spirit herself, she was still seriously injured, and her vitality was greatly damaged. It was not easy to cross mountains and rivers over there. How could it be easy for the goddess of turtle spirit, that even with the help of his teacher's green touring palace's Dao runes, he would still need to recuperate for a period of time? The 3 of them didn't mention a single word about how they would take revenge on their enemies, or how they would end things. There was no need to mention those things. Immortal Wu Yin and the others didn't come back with you this time? Holy Mother Turtle Spirit asked carefully. No. Taoist Duobao's face sank, and a murderous aura suddenly surged. The goddess of turtle spirit stopped asking. Her expression became much gloomier. When they reached the entrance of the hall, they suddenly heard cheers from the foot of the mountain. The 3 of them sensed something, and turned to look in the direction of the sound. They saw a 5-colored light approaching from afar. A woman in plain white clothes rode a white cloud and rushed over. Senior sister Wudong is back. Duobao and the other 2 did not care about healing their injuries. In their joy, they hurriedly went out and joined the thunderous cheers at the foot of the mountain. Master! A cry filled with admiration came from the surface of the sea. In Green Turing Palace. The Grand Master of Heaven closed his eyes gently. The corners of his eyes were slightly wet, but the corners of his mouth revealed a smile. This time, Master will not let you suffer any grievances. Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaoyan sped away. I've had a lot of unexpected encounters in the past few days. I still feel a little strange now. Zhou Xiaoduo scratched his head. I have the same feeling. The world now is very different from before. Breathing in the spiritual energy in the air, Zhou Xiaoyan's beautiful face was full of solemnity. Xiao Duo, have you carefully sensed how much bigger this world is than before? Logically speaking, Penglai Island was originally within the 3 continents, but the area it occupied was not as big as it is now. I'm afraid it's not even 1%, right? And this sea, when was it so vast? When the ancient clans returned, many continents merged, and the ancestral land regained its light. There will definitely be a huge change in the terrain. I heard what they said. The current world seems to be continuing some calamity from before, some karma. It's just that they didn't tell the truth, making people unable to understand. Sua Xiaoyan voiced the doubts in her heart. I have a feeling that there is a powerful person playing a very big game of chess between the heavens and the earth. And you and I are just the most inconspicuous chess pieces on the chessboard. Sua Xiaoyan's heart was full of worry. Don't think about anything. Sua Xiaodua was very optimistic. There will be a way when the time comes. Let's take it one step at a time. Even if it's a game of chess between the heavens and the earth. What does it have to do with you and me? We'll live our lives and do our own things. As for the rest, it's all up to us. Then Xiao Duo, what is your ultimate goal? Is it to transcend this world? Or to become a chess piece and become a chess player? Me? I've never thought about anything. I just want to warm the bed with my wife and children. Hasn't this been my dream since I was young? Sua Xiaodua laughed. It's still the same now. Even if I'm in the game, so what? Who can do anything to me? All kinds of schemes have made me walk down the same path. So what? I want to go because I want to go, or I have to go. But in my heart, I'll always warm the bed with my wife and children, until death. Heaven doesn't care about me. Earth doesn't care about me. Sua Xiaodua raised his eyebrows. I'm just me. Oh. Sua Xiaoyan rolled her eyes. This guy was always like this. No matter what business you talked to him about, he would always be so unreliable. But he was so handsome. For the sake of our little family, he would do anything. So handsome, Sua Xiaoyan understood it this way. Her aesthetic concept was also cultivated since she was young. That's great, Sua Xiaoyan said in her heart. A sweet smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. On the Qilin cliff in the North Sea, wind and clouds gathered. Only a lamp was shining in the sky. Gods and devils from all directions. Boundless filth was pouring down from Qilin cliff. Under the Qilin cliff, a green light was like a star in the dark night. Although it was weak, it never went out. It was shining as if it could last forever. What's the point of struggling at death's door? Do you know what your two sisters are doing now? Haha. The dignified Bai Xiao Qiong is now a midwife helping a pregnant woman give birth. Ha ha ha. Don't you think it's funny? What's your big brother doing now? Do you know? Hee, your big brother is amazing now. He's in charge of the mortal world's path of wealth. The so-called wealth can reach the gods refers to your big brother. His incense is exuberant. It's a pity that he can only watch from afar. Isn't this what you value the most? Yin Xiao, aren't you being suppressed here because of them? Yin Xiao, what do you have to say? You claim to be loyal, but so what? What did your friendship get in exchange? You claim to be noble and peerless, but what compensation can your nobility get? Have the heavens and the earth ever affirmed you? Have the sages ever pitied you? You think you're right, but in this world, who is the slightest bit sure that you're right? No, not a single one. What's the point of persisting and not dying? What's the point of struggling here? Does your so-called persistence really have any meaning? Could it really change anything if you're trapped here forever? Jia school is gone. Your master is gone. You can't change the god role. Apart from being a loach here and enduring your life, what else can you do? Your eldest senior brother has already become the Buddha. The current Buddha of the Western sect. Has he come to save you? What are you holding on to? You've been waiting bitterly. Do you really have a definite goal, Yin Xiao? Who are you living for? What's the point of living? Who are you living for? What's the value of being born? Yin Xiao, everything you persevered for is gone. What value do you have? Do you dare to answer? Do you dare to answer? Do you dare to answer? Every word was heart-wrenching and soul-stealing. At the foot of the cliff, a wisp of clear light flickered stubbornly and did not extinguish. A clear voice said calmly, Randang, you've been talking so much nonsense recently? Does this mean that Jia school is about to rise? Are you panicking? Are you afraid? You're afraid. Randang, you've already lost your composure. You've lost your composure. With your current unbalanced Tao heart, You actually want to use words to affect my Tao heart? I heard that the Buddhist sect has the lotus flower technique and is used to bewitching all living beings. Today I've experienced it. It's just an insignificant skill. Facts have proven that regardless of whether you were once the deputy sect master of Chan school or the past Buddha of Buddhism, you are nothing in front of me, Yin Xiao. You are extremely insignificant. When have I, Yin Xiao, ever taken you seriously? How dare you try to affect my Tao heart with just a few words? If it were anyone else, I might have been affected. It's not a big deal to die. However, who are you, Randang? You're just a traitor. You used my senior brother, my elder brother, and my sister to attack me. You, Randang, have actually fallen to such a state. You have long fallen to a disadvantage. It seems that you have lost confidence in yourself. Do you feel that you can no longer attack me? Do you doubt that you don't have such ability? Or do you know that you don't have such means? Then, what confidence do you have that you can mess with my Tao heart? Randang, who were you originally? Who did you betray? Who did you betray? What did you leave behind? What did you obtain? Can you really live with a clear conscience? You asked me what I insisted on, but perhaps I should ask you the most. Is your Tao heart still there? What is it that you insist on? Are you insisting on the past that you betrayed? Or are you really able to abide by what you're abiding by now? Since when has your Tao heart been the same? Randang, you're inferior to me. You're far inferior to me. Because my Tao heart has always been the same. When you betrayed the sect, did you ever feel the disdain behind you? So what if the Western sect treats you as the Buddha of the past? Can you cover up your betrayal? How much have you let down? How much have you betrayed? How much have you lost? How much have you lost? When second Uncle Master is looking at you, are you afraid, calm, or ashamed? Now you're facing me, a person who has always been the same as a traitor. Where's your face? Randang, are you ashamed? Are you ashamed? Are you ashamed? Are you ashamed? Chapter 1364. Wisps of divine sense continued to press downward. Wisps of divine sense continued to press downward. Spiritual wills could not help but fight upwards. You want to mess with my Tao heart, but I'm the one who messed with your Tao heart first. Let's see who's not afraid of chaos. On the Qilin cliff, there was a skinny monk who was emitting Buddhist light all over his body. He was smashing down in circles. His main body wanted to rush down as well. However, every time he was halfway down, a yellow light would appear in the middle of the Qilin cliff and stop him. On the other hand, a clear shadow at the foot of the mountain would rise from time to time and go against the momentum. However, it was also blocked by the yellow light. It was forcefully stopped. At the core of the yellow light, there was only a calm sentence. Why are you in such a hurry? Both sides used words to attack the other party's heart, but they also defended their hearts at all times. Every word was like the sharpest blade. They would not stop until they stabbed into the other party's heart. This was actually a dangerous battle that targeted the other party's Tao heart. Once one's Tao heart was lost, they would fall forever and be doomed. The skinny monk's face gradually revealed a victorious expression. He was really confident of winning. Basically, he would come here every once in a while to fight with Yin Xiao below. He directly attacked her Tao heart. That was also the only way to kill the other party, under the interference of the yellow light. However, after so many years, Yin Xiao had never cursed at him. If she wanted to say something, she would say it and turn a deaf ear. However, this time, Yin Xiao began to counterattack and began to expose her scars. This situation made Randang see hope. Yin Xiao's Tao heart might still not be shaken, but her desire to live had already begun to waver. This outcome made Randang feel more at ease. Among all the disciples of the three sects, he was not afraid of Duo Bao, Guang Qingzi or Xuandu. The others, such as Yuding Tai, Yin Zhong and Kong Xian, did not care. However, there was only one person who made him feel like there was a thorn in his back. Fairy Yin Xiao. The others more or less looked at the big picture and followed the heavenly Tao. When they could get by, they would take a step back. If they could get by, the other party would also get by. They would not lose their last bit of face. However, Fairy Yin Xiao was different. The things that Yin Xiao cherished the most precious, and the most inseparable in her entire life, had all been destroyed during the previous God-conferment calamity. If Fairy Yin Xiao went crazy, even the Grandmaster of Heaven would not be able to stop her. There were precedents for this. Back then, during the God-conferment war, the Grandmaster of Heaven had personally given Yin Xiao a decree that she was not allowed to participate in the God-conferment tribulation. She had to recite the Yellow Court at home and naturally dispel the calamity. However, his brother Zhao Gongming died. Yin Xiao tore the decree and came out of the mountain to take revenge. No one could stop this crazy woman, including the sages. At the final moment, Yin Xiao even directly attacked the sage. This action made Randing extremely fearful. In the God-conferment tribulation, Randing was the one who had the most blood debts. Fairy Yin Xiao had been suppressed and sealed by the saint. That was an indisputable fact. However, Fairy Yin Xiao was only sealed. She did not die or enter the God role. It was also a fact. As long as Fairy Yin Xiao did not die and did not enter the God role, even if the Tao ancestor personally suppressed her, Randing would not be at ease. Only when he saw her die with his own eyes, and everything returned to nothingness, would the calamity in his life really disappear. He was completely and truly free of worries. Therefore, to him, coming to Qilin Cliff after a while was already a habit. It was already a part of his life. Ever since the continent was separated, and he could not come here often, Randing had been anxious for too long. After so many years, what should he do if Yin Xiao came out? Fortunately, she had yet to come out, and was still sealed. Fortunately. Therefore, once the continent returned, Taoist Randing came here immediately. He could leave the rest to his clone. Only this side had to be done by him personally. Various colors of light and shadows attacked one after another. However, the clear light at the foot of the cliff continued to sway tenaciously and rise among the various colors of light. It did not fall, did not fade, and flickered stubbornly. Even though the world was turbid, this bit of clarity still existed and left hope for the world. My master will definitely come back. Everyone will return. Definitely. That belief was extremely firm and unshakable. Amidst the violent wind, a Tao rune slowly descended. Randing frowned. His eyes flashed and he grabbed it. Then he frowned. The blood-winged black mosquito has been destroyed. Its essence soul has dissipated outside Thunder Eagle City. Randing sighed softly. His body slowly rose and floated towards Thunder Eagle City. It was fine if Taoist Wen died, but his death brought about another problem. The whereabouts of the third-grade Golden Lotus was the most important thing. He had to retrieve it as soon as possible, or at least confirm its location. It was not that Randing had not thought of leaving the good corpse behind to continue dealing with Yin Xiao. However, on second thought, with Yin Xiao's current cultivation level, she would probably suppress his good corpse. If he did not handle it well, she would take advantage of it. Wouldn't that be terrible? Since things could not be done, he might as well leave. Nothing had happened for so many years. Moreover, the seal here was set up by the saint. With Yin Zhao's strength, she would not be able to escape. There was still a long way to go. In a moment, he was already in the air. In an instant, he was thousands of miles away. At the right time, Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaoyan leisurely arrived. Ahead is the Qilin Cliff that Taoist Duobao mentioned. It's less than 2,500 kilometers away. Zhu Yan pointed ahead and said, "You're so lively now. What did you do just now?" Zhou Xiaoduo rolled his eyes. "You actually disappeared without a trace after entering the Green Turing Palace. Do you know how much of an opportunity you missed?" Zhu Yan coughed and was extremely embarrassed. "It's not that I don't want to show up, nor is it that I don't want this opportunity. It's really, I can't show up." "Why?" "Today is a joyous day for Jie School. It's the first day of the sect reopening." Zhu Yan said aggrievedly. "How can I not know that the fundamental teachings of Jie School are to teach without discrimination? The saint of Shangqing will not treat me badly. However, in this world, other than you, little master, and the old madam, no one else looks at me well. If I don't know what's good for me, and join in the fun with the name of the beast of misfortune, I will be in trouble. I'm afraid that even if the heavenly Tao protects me, I will be killed." Scarlet Ape was very clear about this point. What he said was also the truth. If he really did show up, he would probably die without a doubt. Be it myriad treasures or Grandmaster of Heaven, any one of them could kill Zhu Yan silently, without offending Zhuoxiaoduo. That this was something that could not be helped. If your companion suddenly went berserk after entering the Green Turing Palace, or reached the end of his lifespan, or suddenly contracted an illness, and died of a sudden illness, with Zhuoxiaoduo's current knowledge and experience, he would not suspect Zhu Yan, even if he went crazy. Zhu Yan was just that friendly from the beginning to the end, wasn't he? The Scarlet Ape was rather self-aware in handling this matter. What a pity. If you had heard Chief's preaching, your strength might have improved greatly as well. Zhuoxiaoyan truly felt sorry for Zhu Yan. Hee. Zhu Yan laughed bitterly and helplessly. That chuckle was filled with endless sorrow. I'd rather not take that big step. I wouldn't dare to go out today. Perhaps in the future, when I wash away the name of the beast of misfortune, I can join the Jie school because of Little Master. After all, the Saint of Prime Clear and Lord Myriad Treasures are very fond of Little Master. Zhu Yan fantasized. It was filled with hope for the future. In the Green Turing Palace, the Grand Master of Heaven was meditating when he suddenly frowned and shouted, "Go, go, go! You are not fated with me." Then with a thought he said calmly, "Buddhists advocate for the salvation of all living beings. You and the Western sect are fated." The words of a saint were law. Although the heavenly secrets were mixed up, the Grand Master of Heaven was still one of the strongest saints. At this moment, he sensed the spiritual opportunity and borrowed the power of luck. Furthermore, the Western sect did not know the reason for this change and the existence of Zhu Yan. In an instant, the purple heaven thunder roared. Over here. Zhu Yan suddenly shook his head and shook away his unrealistic idea of joining the Jie school. He thought, I've met the Grand Master of Heaven before. He treated me very kindly. However, during the disaster of the Jie school's destruction last time, there were many rumors that I was a hindrance to the Jie school. Even if the Grand Master of Heaven did not care, the other disciples might vent their anger on me. Thinking about it carefully, I can't go to the Jie school. After thinking about it, it seemed that the doctrine of the Western sect was to deliver all living beings from suffering and to have no discrimination. They could even accept a villain like Taoist one. They were even more desperate than the disciples of the Jie sect. Maybe I can form a good relationship with the Western sect. Anyway, I'm just looking for protection. I can go anywhere. With that thought, he immediately paid attention. He looked at Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxiaoyan in front of him, and was even more certain of his idea. My biggest backer now is still Zhuo and his wife. They are the real heaven-defying masters. Who else can it be other than him? Zhu Yan, follow him every day. He's still fine. He's even living better. He survived several disasters, turned misfortunes into blessings, and gained a lot of benefits. He's my Mr. Right. Maybe my hope of clearing my name lies on Zhuo. Of course, I have to try my best to be on good terms with the people of the Western sect when I see them in the future. Maybe someday, our friendship will come in handy. The Grand Master of the Western sect said it well. In life, it's better to form good relationships. That's what I'm thinking. They covered 5,000 miles in an instant. The two of them rushed all the way, breaking through layers of fog and clouds. The dangerous Qilin cliff was already clearly visible. Chapter 1365. At a glance, the entire cliff was like a huge Qilin leaping into the sky. Its horns were lofty, and its scales were clear. The cliff wasn't very high. It was only a few thousand feet high, but it went straight into the sea. In the middle of the cliff, there was a faint yellow light shining slightly. Countless intertwining divine senses seemed to be dispersing from the Qilin cliff. Zhuoxiaoduo firmly remembered what Taoist Duobao said. On the Qilin cliff, in the middle of the cliff, there is a golden post. You only need to use your hammer and smash it with all your strength. Zhuoxiaoduo wasn't a fool. He naturally knew that with this hammer smash, he would probably get into huge trouble and form a huge karma. But the biggest problem was, could he not smash this hammer? He could not smash it. This debt was very easy to calculate. If he didn't smash it, the owner of the post wouldn't have a good impression of him. Instead, it would leave a knot in the heart of the existing ally, or even a grudge. But if he smashed it, not only would the alliance become more stable, but the person who was saved by his hammer would also owe him a big favor. What's more, the other side might not be really angry. Even if they were angry, they might not vent it on him. Besides, who was the one who posted this post? Even if they vent their anger on him, what did he have to be afraid of? Who cares? Not to mention allies, he was also one of the most powerful princes in the world. The Sky Patrol minister was his father. The flood, which was his godfather. You dare to find trouble with me? Let my godfather hammer you first. Let's see if you can take it or not. I've long wanted to try the unscrupulous second generation of cultivation. My father is a big shot. Don't you want to try? Therefore, Swordsmanship really didn't feel any pressure in his heart. He even had the idea of going on a scenic tour. He came here and smashed the hammer. What a simple matter. Look, didn't he already see the pornographic post? Wasn't this where the goal was? As long as he hammered it down, wouldn't it be easy and happy to complete it? There was no one around. Between heaven and earth, it was quiet. Only the waves were raging and surging, wave after wave. It reminded Swordsmanship of his wedding night. He couldn't help but let out a heroic spirit that soared to the heavens. He recited, "Pa pa 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 pa. The waves are coming from the shore. The waves are coming from the shore. It's really scary. The white waves are surging up to the sky. Walala walala, walala pa pa pa. It makes me happy in my heart. Ha 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 ha. My wife and I are really free and easy. Really, really free and easy." Good poem. Now that she knew Swordsmanship's background, the Swordsmannian was furious. Get back to work. Go back now. Stop pretending. Okay. Swordsmanship did not dare to say anything. Instead, he pulled out his 99 kitty hammer. At this moment, the 99 cat hammer's elegance was even more profound than before. The yin and yang halos flowed, white light and black gas lingered, and the Tao was completely natural. The universe, the sun, and the moon only rotated slightly, and it was as if they were about to fly out of the hammer. The unprecedented fiendish aura had already reached its peak, and it looked down on all living things. Who could resist it? Hey! Swordsmanship roared majestically and soared up to the sky. In a flash, he was already in the sky above the flickering yellow light. One hammer pointed to the sky, and the other to the ground. He shouted, "Look at me, the 99 kitty hammer of universe, sun and moon." This roar was not only full of momentum, but it was also the first time he shouted the full name of the 99 kitty hammer. All the spiritual energy in his body was running to the limit, and he also sent out the power of the divine sense and the power of the soul. Finally, he combined it with the power of providence. The four mixed forces were all condensed on the hammerhead. Thousand Souls Nightmare Hammer. In 1/10 of a second, all the moves of the hammer technique were swung continuously like a storm. Then all the strength and power were condensed into the hammer. It was really mixed with the extreme power of the universe, and it crashed down. It crashed on the yellow light's post. Boom! With a sudden explosion, the yellow light reacted instantly and shot out billions of dazzling golden lights. It was a strong counterattack. Oh yeah. Ouch! Swordsmanship turned into a shooting star along with his hammers. He was blasted away for God knows how many kilometers by the tremendous force. Because he couldn't bear the force, he couldn't even hold on to the two hammers, and they flew out of his hands. Fortunately, Bai and Jiu drove the hammers back automatically. Wah wah wah! Swordsmanship spat out more than 10 mouthfuls of blood, as if they were free. Then he passed out. Before he passed out, his last thought was, "Fuck. This is just a post. Just a post." It seems that the 99 kitty hammer can't be called by its full name. Swordsmannian reacted quickly. She rushed out and caught Swordsmanship, who was in midair. Ice and snow spiritual energy surged into his meridians. Then, she poured a large number of elixirs, and the 2 bottles of spiritual liquid she just received into Swordsmanship's mouth. The rich power of the providence points rushed into Swordsmanship's meridians and traveled through his limbs and bones. His injuries were stabilized in an instant. He opened his eyes. Fuck. On the other side, billions of yellow lights launched a strong counterattack. The yellow post fluttered back and forth in the air for a moment. Then with a boom, it suddenly exploded and turned into powder. At the last moment when the yellow post turned into powder, there was an extremely dazzling yellow light. The endless yellow light was like a sun that suddenly exploded in the sky. It directly lifted the entire sea area into the sky. The entire Qilin cliff collapsed with a boom. The natural Qilin statue with towering horns, that had existed since ancient times, shattered inch by inch and fell into the sea. Huge waves surged. Rocks pierced the clouds. The scene was extremely chaotic. The next moment, or perhaps the next moment, there was a clear whistle. A white figure gracefully flashed out from the bottom of the Qilin cliff. Bang bang. Bang. Several invisible chains broke one by one as the white figure moved. It was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot, or a mayfly trying to shake a tree. In the sky, the wind blew and the white clouds gathered. For a moment, the whole world was filled with white and flawless white clouds. It was clean, holy, noble, and elegant. A gentle voice said, "I wonder which fellow cultivator helped me this time? I can't thank you enough. Yunxiao is here to greet you." Although he had been suppressed for countless years, his voice was still as gentle and courteous as ever, elegant and graceful. Zhuo Xiaoduo coughed and spat out blood. He bent over with a pale face and rolled his eyes. "What kind of post is this? That guy Duobao didn't tell me that the recoil would be so strong." He staggered and swallowed a mouthful of blood. "It almost took half of my life. This hammer is really fucking strong." Yun Xiao smiled slightly and floated down. She was tall and slim, but she had a strong ethereal aura. Regardless of appearance and temperament, she was like a spring orchid and autumn chrysanthemum, with Zhuo Xiaoyan. They both had their own strengths. "Thank you for your help, fellow Taoist. You helped me escape, but I've made you suffer." Zhuo Xiaoduo finally caught his breath. "Big Sister Yun, you don't have to be polite. I was entrusted by someone. It's just that my cultivation level is low, and I can't withstand the counterattack of that post. However, Zhao's pain can help Big Sister Yun escape. It's worth it." "Oh, may I ask who asked you to do this?" Yin Zhao's eyes flashed with urgency. "Big brother Duobao asked me to come and smash this hammer," Zhuo Xiaoduo said. "He also said that when you escape, immediately return to the Green Turing Palace. There can't be any delay." "Big brother Duobao, Green Turing Palace?" Yin Xiao felt as if she had been struck by lightning. They have all returned. Jia School has been re-established a few days ago. They are all waiting for you," Zhuo Xiaoyan explained with a smile. Her smile faintly flowed with an inexplicable calming effect. When one saw her smiling face, they immediately felt that the world was infinitely beautiful. The years were peaceful and good. They've all gone back. Jia School. Yin Xiao took a deep breath excitedly. "Thank you. I'll go back now." She could not wait any longer when she heard the good news today. As soon as she finished speaking, her body floated and disappeared in the blink of an eye. However, in the next moment, she appeared in front of the two of them again. Her face was filled with shame as she said embarrassedly, "I just escaped and heard good news. Yun Xiao owes the two of you a lot. However, I really don't have anything to offer now. The two of you, I'll repay your kindness in the future. In this life, Yun Xiao will never forget this kindness." Yun Xiao bowed seriously. "Fellow Taoists, may I know your names? My name is Zhuo Xiaoduo. This is my wife, Zhuo Xiaoyan." "Thank you, both of you." Yin Zhao's body flashed past. A white cloud landed beside Zhuo Xiaoyan's temple and turned into an ice jade flower. It was sparkling and reflecting the seven-colored light of glass. It was a spectacle. "Thank you, Sister Little Nian. I'm very ashamed. My heart is in turmoil and my mind is in a mess. I can only report everything later." She bowed elegantly again. "We'll meet again. This place is very dangerous. Fellow Taoists, it's better for you to leave this place quickly." After saying that, she waved her hand and tore through space with a crack. She rushed towards the East Ocean. The space that she had torn apart did not recover immediately. Instead, it cracked all the way to the sky above Qilin Cliff. With a crisp crack, the Buddhist light restriction that Randang had set up exploded. The trace of origin soul imprint that was attached to it suddenly exploded. All the karma in this place had been directly erased. There was no trace left. But this time, Yun Zhao's graceful figure had completely disappeared. Amazing! Zhuo Xiaoyan widened her eyes. She vaguely felt that this Sister Yun Zhao's cultivation strength might be above Sister Yun's Guiling. How many shocking figures were there in this primordial world? After this trip, Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaoyan felt a little depressed. Originally, they thought that they had already broken through to the zenith heaven and officially reached the top of the cultivators in the 3 continents. Even if the continents returned and the ancestral land regained its light, as a zenith heaven cultivator, they could still be considered a top figure in this world. Zhuo Xiaoduo had even fantasized countless times. The next time he returned to Phoenix City, what posture should he use when he acted cool? Or should he use a few more positions? With his hands behind his back and a reserved and humble smile on his face, he walked into Phoenix City's No. 2 high school and smiled faintly at teacher Qin Fangyang, who had always wanted to beat him up. I'm lucky to have broken through to the zenith heaven. When he thought of that scene, Zhuo Xiaoduo could not help but feel so excited that he wanted to pee. Oh. Let's have another round of laughter for old Qin to hear. Your student, I'm laughing heartily? Do you still want to beat me up? Do you still want to pick me up by the back of my neck and swing me around? Or should I go to the Tao League to find trouble with someone? Yes, I'll definitely go to the Forest of 10,000 Spirits. I'll let Elder One see my progress, he said very modestly and reservedly. Recently, my progress has been quite slow. I've only reached the zenith heaven. I'm ashamed. But now, the scene that he had fantasized about countless times was no longer pleasant. Chapter 1366. After this round, not only did Zhuo Xiaoduo suffer a huge blow, but even Zhuo Xiaoyan felt dejected. Why? Does it seem like everyone I met here is stronger than me? Much stronger than me. How? How can this be? For example, Sister Yun, the Holy Mother of Turtle Spirit, Kong Xian, Duobao and Yun Xiao. Every one of them is much stronger than me. Moreover, after communicating with them and listening to their words, there were still a lot of cultivators who were at the same level as them in this world, even if they were not everywhere. What do you think I should do? After others break through to the zenith heavenly realm, they are at the peak of this world and can go to the ends of the world to show off. However, when I break through to the zenith heavenly realm, I am at the ends of the world. Be shown off. What the fuck, that I don't even have the strength to complain. I worked so hard and painstakingly cultivated to the zenith heavenly realm, just to be shown off by others? This was simply intolerable. Even if the uncle could tolerate it, the aunt could not tolerate it. Xiao Duo, I have a question in my heart. I don't understand why Brother Duobao would call you junior brother, but you didn't admit it, Zhuo Xiaoyan asked curiously. According to Zhuo Xiaoduo's character, he would pluck a handful of wool from a sheep. He had long been used to climbing along the pole. This was very abnormal in itself. It was not just a little strange, it was simply too strange. Brother Duobao called us junior brother and sister because of the 2 prayer mats. We listened to the preaching of the Prime of Heaven, and we have a relationship that far surpasses that of others. I didn't agree, mainly because I was afraid and didn't dare to agree. Zhuo Xiaoduo said honestly, I was really a little scared at that time. Even now when I think about it, I'm still a little scared. Yes, I'm scared. The fear that comes from the depths of my soul. Zhuo Xiaoduo let out a long sigh. If I don't admit it, I can only call you that in private when we meet. However, if I admit it, the end result will definitely be known by the world. The identity of a disciple of the Jie school will be firmly engraved on you and me. However, my most fundamental identity is that of the human race. Our father is the heaven-inspecting minister. If I agree to it on the spot, it's very likely that I'll drag the entire continent of astral souls into their grudge. How would I dare to agree so casually? Zhuo Xiaoduo sighed. He felt that the reason why Duobao didn't give him a gift was probably because he didn't agree to it. That guy was so stingy. On the way back, the more Zhuo Xiaoduo thought about it, the more depressed he became. Not only was he attacked everywhere, But he also didn't get many treasures. Later on, he was so upset that he dragged Zhuo Xiaoyan into the Tower of Annihilation to cultivate with her for 3 months. Only then did he feel better. Zhuo Xiaoyan was speechless and had no choice but to cooperate. You're just looking for a reason to do that, all right? When one was happy, one had to celebrate. When one was frustrated, one had to vent. When one won a battle, one had to celebrate. When one lost a battle, one had to console. When one was scolded, one had to console. When one was beaten, one had to console. Anyway, no matter what it was, in the end one had to. Cough cough. Forget it. I can see that you're such a lazy guy in your bones. However, even someone like Zhuo Xiaoyan, who boasted that she understood Zhuo Xiaoduo well, did not guard against such things. Once she broke through, she would only break through again and again. There was no such thing as a lower limit. Therefore, Zhuo Xiaoduo even brought out the reason that he was tired from the journey and wanted to rest. He stopped all the way. He rested a few times, vented a few times, comforted a few times, and then celebrated a few times. Of course, there were also a few sparring sessions with real swords and spears. Zhuo Xiaoyan was now facing Zhuo Xiaoduo, and once again entered the state of invincibility that she hadn't seen for a long time. Through this competition, Zhuo Xiaoduo finally understood how powerful the equipment that Tongtian and Duo Baoduo had given him was after being fully equipped from head to toe. To give a simple and straightforward example, as long as the defense of these treasures was activated, even if Zhuo Xiaoyan stood there motionless, Zhuo Xiaoduo would need more than an hour to break through it with the Thousand Souls Nightmare Hammer. In this way, Zhuo Xiaoduo naturally fell into the mode of being abused again. And this result made him feel that it was too fucking unfair. What the hell is this? You gave Nian Nian Mao a gift, but I didn't give her anything. This is too unreasonable. At home, my parents helped Nian Nian Mao to bully me. And when I went out, everyone I met seemed to have made an agreement to help Nian Nian Mao deal with me. That is there any place in this world where I can be reasonable? O heavens, O earth, O heavenly law, please open your eyes and save the pitiful me. Of course, as Zhuo Xiaoyan and Zhuo Xiaoduo continued to gain benefits and opportunities, the prime of Tongtian and the prime of Tongtian continued to gain benefits and opportunities. On the other side of the 3 continents, the Flood Witch, who was in the secret land of the Wu people, felt very good. She felt that her power of providence was constantly overflowing. The looming path in front of her had become a bright and smooth path without any obstacles. Her strength had also increased by leaps and bounds, and it led the 12 shamans to advance by leaps and bounds. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding also felt the same. During the rare break in the battle, the two of them also felt that their providence was bursting. It was as if the heavenly Tao was greatly helping them, and they had crossed all the small bottlenecks in their cultivation journey effortlessly. Although he hadn't caught up with the Great Flood Witch yet, compared to the previous stagnation, there had been a tremendous change. Yu Xingchen, the star-plucking monarch, who had originally fought with Zhuo Changlu, was now far from being a match for Zhuo Changlu. Regarding the current situation, whether it was the 5 swords of the Tao League, the Astral Souls, or the Wu people, they were all pleasantly surprised. They had originally thought that with the return of the 6 continents, the 3 continents of the Astral Souls would not be able to resist, and would definitely be finished. But who would have thought that after everyone had returned, even before the 3 sides had prepared to do anything, 5 of the 6 continents that had returned had unanimously focused their attention on the demon race. The demon race had become the target of public criticism in the first second after their return. With the demon race restraining the other forces, the Wu people, the Tao race, and the Astral Souls unexpectedly obtained a rare period of peace. Well, it was more or less a mistake not to mention this, because the Tao League was not in a state of peace. Instead, it was vaguely participating in the checks and balances of various forces. And the more direct reason was with the appearance of the mighty figures of various races. The first disciple of the Tao race's sage, Guang Qingzi, also reappeared in the mortal world. And he was not the only one. Taoist mighty figures such as the immortal elder of the South Pole, Yin Zhongzi, Tai, Yuding Huanglong Chijingzi, Taoist Master Numinous Treasure, Heavenly Lord of Taoist Conduct, Pristine Void, and Taoist Lord of Tao and Virtue all reappeared in the mortal world. Once they reappeared, heaven and earth shook. The Tao League's continent shone brightly. Mountain gates hidden in the void opened one after another. Countless famous mountains and rivers were released from their seals. Perfect Jade Void Perfected Lord. There were exactly 10 of them. They stood in 10 different directions, forming an impenetrable wall around the entire Tao League's continent. Compared to the powerful reappearance of the primordial mighty figures in the Tao League, the ancient human mighty figures still did not appear. The humans of the astral souls could not help but lose hope once again. In a secret place, are we just going to watch? The human race has experienced countless calamities before they can become the main characters of the world. The heavens move vigorously, and the gentleman strives to improve himself. We, the pioneers of the human race, are not the saints of the human race. We are ashamed to be called saints. We can't feel at ease. That's right. Everything was obtained by the later generations who struggled to survive and fought for the heavenly Tao. All we need to do is watch in silence. As long as it's not the time to be destroyed, there's no need for them to do anything. If it's really the time to be destroyed, when that time comes, we 8 old bones will abandon our smelly bodies. I believe that we can protect the human race from the heavenly Tao and reproduce. All right. Yes, if we appear now, I'm afraid it won't be good. In terms of combat strength, we are inferior to the saints. If we appear rashly, we will make the current generation of humans rely on us. They will inevitably lose their determination to improve, and their future will be bleak. If we don't appear, we will always have a backup plan. The races will have concerns, and will not go too far. Yes. In that case, how about we visit the goddess? All right, let's go together. Leave behind an avatar, and pay attention to the movements of the human race. Under the calamity, life and death are easy to come by. We have to be careful. No matter how careful we are, it's not too much. Of course. The two of them walked leisurely in the 9 heavens. Master, Chan Jie is moving again. Let him be. Your seal has been shattered. Yun Xiao escaped and reappeared in the mortal world. In the heavenly courts, Yun Zhao's incarnation that was conferred the god has already dissipated. It no longer exists. Let him be. The cow has also run away. It seems to have returned to third uncle master. Let it be. Master, where are we going? Follow me. Master, in the previous God-conferment tribulation, countless living beings died. However, it was still a tribulation in the end. There was a chance of survival. However, this time, it has turned into a death tribulation. I'm afraid that the blood of the two of you will splatter in the blue sky. Let him be. Master, you. All right. Master, back then do about your scheme. That question was met with silence. Master, I really can't feel at ease. The various grudges back then have been fermenting for so many years. They are already out of control. I want you. Follow me. Back then, Master, as a saint, helped me eliminate the calamity. I'm grateful for it. However, karma still exists. There will be a day when it will be resolved. Now that the calamity has begun again, the heavenly secrets have fallen into chaos again. How can I know that karma will be resolved? Let him be. Master, did the Tao ancestor arrange for this cataclysm? This time, the old Taoist priest who was asked was silent for a while. After a long time, he opened his eyes and said slowly, "No." The question was immediately stagnant. Could it be that the heavenly Tao evolved on its own? No. Chapter 1367. The person who asked the question was completely stunned. Master? Master. I'm afraid you are in danger of dying in this great tribulation. As the saying goes, a prophecy has come true. Why are you talking about karma? The old Taoist priest hit his disciple with a yellow light and imprisoned him. Back then, your third uncle master gave a strict order to prevent his disciple from entering the calamity. However, the heavenly Tao operated and karma caused it. In the end, it was useless. This time, I have accepted your third uncle master's lesson and decided to tie you to my side. I will not let you leave at all. I want to see if karma can shake the saint's personal suppression. Master. Perhaps, the great tribulation is not up to the heavens. The old Taoist priest said calmly. However, I can tie someone up and leave. Golden lightning flashed in front of him. The old Taoist priest led his disciple, and slowly floated into the golden lightning. However, he was protected by the boundless heaven and earth chi. He was unharmed as he passed through. Master, where are we going? To the outer space. Outer space. Only in the outer space can we avoid this calamity. I don't understand. As he spoke, countless spatial barriers were broken one by one. The master and disciple finally stood outside the galaxy. Looking around, all they could see was a land of primal chaos. The old Taoist priest finally smiled. We're out. We're finally out. Master, this. Why? Since we're out, there's no harm in saying anything else. The old Taoist priest turned around and looked at the densely packed galaxy that was billions of kilometers away. He said softly, from the beginning to the end, we were just moving in the small world. Back then, during the calamity, this race rose and that race perished. How could there be an eternal protagonist who would prosper forever? The Western sect won the God-confirmant tribulation? However, after so many years, where is the prosperity? Your second uncle master's Chan school won. But where did they win? Your third uncle master's Jia school lost. Did they really lose? That day, the demon race's Wu people had a shocking battle. The world collapsed and the mysterious yellow world was overturned. But what about now? How many people in this world can prosper forever? It seems to be a long time. But who isn't a passerby in this world? What's the difference between fighting and not fighting in the end? Might as well not fight. Staying out of the world and watching coldly from the sidelines, watching the life and death of the world, is also a way to live, an attitude. I'm leaving. Master, disciple has one last question. When Samantha Padra and the other junior brothers went to the West, was it second uncle's plan? Or was it really a betrayal? All these years, although this disciple understands, I have always been brooding over it. That is why you cannot enter this tribulation. Disciple does not understand. Haha. You can think about it carefully. After the investiture of the gods, the West flourished. But speaking of which Buddhas were favored by the people, which Buddhas were they? Which bodhisattvas are they? The Western sect has manifested their divinity countless times, but since ancient times. Zhuanti and Jiayin. What about the incense they received? In fact, how many living beings in this world worship them and remember them? This disciple is covered in cold sweat. There are countless schemes and schemes, countless treacherous people, countless far-reaching arrangements. It has evolved into countless guesses. Who is right and who is wrong has long been meaningless. However, the heavenly Tao is clear, and the saints exist forever. The saints' schemes are in the boundless world. As the saying goes, the world is the board, and all living beings are the children. However, they still need a medium. Otherwise, not only would there be chess players, but there would also be a place to fight. As for why there are only those few, I can only say that it is fate and the heart. Although there were endless changes and deductions later on, if you ask your second uncle this question, why? I'm afraid that your second martial uncle's heart is also confused. The old Taoist priest laughed. However, it's all in this game. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The two of them entered the vast chaos. Suddenly, a gourd floated out quietly from behind the two of them. It immediately turned into a stream of light, and returned to the nebula galaxy in a flash. Master, what? What does this mean? What should come will come, and what should leave will leave. There are still 10 batches of 9 revolutions golden pills that have recently been refined. I might as well leave them for this world. After all, I'll leave a mark in this world. I don't understand. The great Tao is boundless. You are still young. You have to know that if you want to be free, you have to abandon all karma. The other young Taoist was dumbfounded. I, the great Taoist Master Xiandu, the head disciple of the 3 sects, am still young. Even I was embarrassed by her words. However, when he saw that his master had already walked far away, he hurriedly chased after him. Master, the Yin Yang fishery. Let him be. Ahem. Master, if the yin-yang cycle is given out, the Tao ancestor will probably. That's why we have to leave. Master, what will happen to Run's school if we leave? The yin-yang kanate chi. Someone will inherit Run's school and represent me. Master, you have another legacy? I have a junior brother? That can't be right. Why don't I know? The young Taoist priest looked surprised and a little disappointed. You hid such a big matter from me. Master, you don't love me anymore. You actually have a younger one in secret. There are legacies in yin and yang. You can look for them yourself. But there's no one leading. Can we? There's your third uncle master. Ahem. You're scheming against third uncle master again. Your third uncle master. Be honest. Third uncle master will probably be fuming with anger when he hears your words. Even if he doesn't hear it, he will still be fuming. Master, are we still coming back? Silly child. The two silhouettes finally disappeared, leaving no trace behind. Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaonian floated on the sea for a day, and vaguely felt that something was amiss. Why? Is it so big? I can't turn out. He could not hold it in any longer, and tore through space to rush forward. However, he realized that after tearing through space hundreds of times, he was still above the sea. The two of them panicked. He calmed down and observed with his mind's eye. After a long time, he felt as if there was a thin mist around him. However, when he tried his best to look into the distance, he could see the sun and moon. The sea level was 5,000 kilometers away. It doesn't seem like an array formation. But why can't I turn out? After a long time, Zhou Xiaonian vaguely realized something. Xiaoduo, have you noticed? This invisible airflow seems strange. Zhou Xiaoduo frowned. No. He calmed down and tried to sense it carefully. In the end, he still looked confused. There's really nothing. Zhou Xiaonian could see more clearly as a bystander. She said softly, it's a little like your creation plate jade pendant. That kind of aura. Can you check it again? Zhou Xiaoduo checked carefully, and suddenly realized something. This kind of primordial qi lingered around his body. Every time he used his energy to check, this kind of aura would merge with his primordial qi, and he would not be able to discover it. That was why he did not discover it after so long. Zhou Xiaonian's aura was relatively pure, so it was easier to discover this kind of hidden aura. However, it was too hidden and too invisible. That was why he only discovered it after so long. This is indeed similar to the aura of the creation plate, but it's much more illusory. It seems to be completely unreal. It's completely like a simulation. Then, do you have the feeling that it's similar to two yin-yang fishes swimming together? Yes, I do. Then it's obvious that we've fallen into this array formation. Who set up this array formation? Who's plotting against us? Both of them guessed, but still could not figure it out. The fact that they had silently fallen into someone else's trap was still a little baffling to the two of them. What was going on? When did they fall into the trap? Why didn't they feel anything at all? Let's think of a way to break the array first. Zhou Xiaonian was a little depressed. There's no hurry. Zhou Xiaoduo was a little lost in thought. He slowly recalled, and was a little excited. I seem to feel that the power of the creation plate seems to be stronger than before. He channeled his energy again, and felt for more than an hour. Finally he said, this seems to be a wandering aura. It's just formed a maze-like array. As long as I have the aura of the creation plate on me, I'll be entangled. However, as long as I cultivate in here, I can absorb this aura and strengthen the creation plate. Zhou Xiaoduo was a little excited. What's going on? Who arranged this? It's good that you're fine. Then you can cultivate here. Zhou Xiaonian said. I'll cultivate in the Annihilation Tower. Okay. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at the aura of the countless yin-yang fish around him. His eyes lit up. It must be a friend. If it's an enemy, who would let me off so easily? I'm really rich this time. The person who set up the array formation did not show up. Zhou Xiaoduo stopped guessing, and cultivated with all his might. The aura of the yin-yang fish was good stuff. He could not let it run away. As for the purpose, I don't care what the purpose is. If there are benefits, I'll absorb them first. I'll understand in the future. Xiaodua's philosophy was, don't think about things that you don't understand. But if you can get something good, take it first. Time passed little by little. Li Chenglong was in a difficult battle. He took Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing to train in the demon realm. He never thought that he would meet his senior, the demon commander of Yingzhou. This demon commander of Yingzhou had sensed the presence of his cave abode. He led his demon soldiers and chased after them. He had no intention of giving preferential treatment to his successor. Li Chenglong and the others were now extremely powerful. However, there were so many demons that they could not defeat them. They could only fight and run at the same time. However, their biggest weakness was that Li Chenglong had Yingzhao's cave abode. This was equivalent to carrying a huge guiding light. It constantly reminded the demon commander of Yingzhou where he was. However, Li Chenglong would not throw away this thing even if he was killed. This was a peerless treasure. How could he throw it away? Therefore, they were trapped in this vicious cycle. However, there were also benefits. The combat strength and cultivation of the three of them increased steadily. They were beaten up every day, and it was a life-and-death battle. As long as they did not die, how could their experience not increase? Long Yuxing's group encountered another problem. The 7 stars of Azure Dragon came looking for them. They were aggressive. Where is my big brother? Why is my big brother's Azure Dragon sacred sword in your hands? Hand over my big brother's sword. Where is my big brother? In the beginning, everyone was amiable and had a relatively peaceful exchange. However, Long Yuxing refused to hand over the Azure Dragon's sacred sword. In fact, he could not hand it over. How could he hand it over when it had already recognized him as its master? This involved a problem. My big brother is one of the 4 great sages of the demon race. If you have his sword, is it? However, how could Long Yuxing join the demon race? The 7 stars of Azure Dragon were also helpless. It was obvious that the Azure Dragon's sacred sword was given to him by his big brother. If he did not give it to him, even if he died, no one else would be able to take it. Then bring us to his Azure Dragon sacred palace. It's sunk. Where can I find it? Long Yuxing looked like he was about to break down. I really don't know. Chapter 1368. The Azure Dragon Sacred Hall had already sunk. Where could they find it? Long Yuxing was also dumbfounded. What should I do? I can't possibly kill the Azure Dragon 7 stars, right? But are we going to continue being entangled like this? The Azure Dragon 7 stars were also at their wits' end. Each of them felt that their heads were 3 times bigger. The Azure Dragon Sacred Sword is in the hands of this brat. He is also unwilling to join the demon race. Are we going to betray the demon race and follow him? This is impossible. As for killing him, that is even more impossible. The Azure Dragon Sacred Sword is in his hands. He is the successor of Big Brother. How can we kill him? We can't kill him. We can't follow him. We can't bear to part with him. After all, seeing the Azure Dragon Sacred Sword is like seeing Big Brother. How can we give it up so easily? The Azure Dragon 7 stars were so conflicted that their intestines were twisted. Especially the Moon Fox of Heart. Sometimes, she would cry until her eyes were like peaches. When she saw the Azure Dragon Sacred Sword, she would think of Big Brother. Thus, these 2 groups of people chased each other and fought intensely. However, there was no danger to their lives. It could be said that they were the strangest group. It was as if they were training together. In short, they continued to be entangled like this. As for Li Zhangming and Zhen Piapiao's group, it was a true life and death battle. During their training, their tracks were exposed. They were surrounded by the demon race's army in a mountain range. Fortunately, the terrain was complicated. Pai Bao used the no sense of presence tactic to continuously gain merit. At the most critical moment, Li Zhangming fell asleep with a large number of demons. Then, the other 3 carried him and ran for their lives. However, after fighting for so long, the 4 of them were quickly covered in wounds. However, his cultivation base was also increasing at a rapid pace, that it was only until the demon race, and spirit race broke out, that the 4 of them rushed out of the myriad demon mountain range. Then, they entered the battlefield of the various races. They were constantly fighting for survival in the cracks. In short, everyone was besieged, surrounded, and crazily fighting. Time slowly passed. This world became more and more complicated. Everything that happened every day gave people a subtle feeling of being at a loss. After the demon race had fought the witch race, and then the monster race, for some unknown reason, Dark Phoenix had managed to kill the 4 crown princes of the spirit race's spirit emperor on the spot. The spirit race only had 4 crown princes, and they had all been killed by Dark Phoenix for some reason. The Nirvana underworld flame was directly burned to ashes. Everyone in the spirit clan, from spirit emperor to spirit emperor, believed in being kind to others and standing aloof from worldly affairs. When they returned to their ancestral land this time, they only wanted to safely survive this tribulation of heaven and earth. They never had the intention to compete with other clans. But now that 4 of their sons had been killed, they were filled with anger. In fact, it wasn't just the spirit emperor. The 4 crown princes' concubines, descendants, ministers, and generals were all filled with righteous indignation. If he didn't take revenge for this, how could he maintain his standing in this world? As a result, the spirit race sent out their troops. The demon race was immediately surrounded by 3 forces, and their situation was precarious. But at this time, the Western Buddhist soldiers suddenly intervened. Dark Phoenix immediately laid down her butcher's knife and became a Buddha. The spirit race clansmen were all stunned. Why did you go to the Western sect? He actually became a Buddha. What the hell? How were they going to play this? At this time, the Azura tribe and the ancient god Qilin tribe inexplicably started fighting. Although the Qilin tribe was few in number, every one of them was at least a Xiantian expert. They were not at a disadvantage in the battle against the Azura tribe, and even had the upper hand. The ancient dragon tribe, who had been watching from the sidelines, took advantage of the time when old ancestor Nether River was fighting to launch a sneak attack on the Azura tribe's lair. Their million-feet-long dragon body took a bath in the Azura tribe's blood river. Then, the primordial phoenix disliked the Azura tribe's dirty eyes and directly sent down the heavenly fire net, burning down the Azura tribe's lair. Everyone in the Azura tribe, including old ancestor Nether River, was confused. When did I offend the 3 of you? Is there a need for the 3 of you to join forces against me? If you dare to do this to me, then don't blame me for taking action. Thus, he turned his head and asked for help from the Western sect. The Buddhas of the Western sect all took action and forced the 3 ancient races to retreat. At the right time, the Kuan-Pung demon master of the demon race led tens of millions of demon soldiers to help the battle. The target of the battle was the spirit race. He kept saying that he would help the spirit race to settle the blood debt and start a war with the Western sect and the demon race. At the critical moment of this battle, the goddess of Wudong, the goddess of turtle spirit, and Fairy Yun Xiao of Jie School entered the battle forcefully. They chased after the Western sect with their swords and asked for the 5 immortals who had accompanied the Grand Master of Heaven. However, how could the Western sect take them out? Hence, the 3 immortals of Jie School displayed their might and joined forces with the Kuan-Pung demon master to merge the high-end combat power of the spirit race and fight the Western sect, the Azura tribe, and the demon race. This battle shocked the continent. The entire sky became the battlefield of the gods. The war lasted for a full 2 months. After that, half of the demon race's overall combat power was crippled, and the strength of the spirit race was reduced by half. The demons' losses were similar. In comparison, the Western sect only lost 1/3 of their troops. They were the ones with the least losses among the various races. As for the Jie School, they only sent out 3 people. Not only were their battle results brilliant, but they were also able to retreat unscathed. It was even more eye-catching and enviable. As soon as the battle was over, the various races ended the battle that was inexplicably caused. They began to withdraw their strength, heal their injuries, and recuperate. However, the left guardian of the demon race, Evil Dragon, was very puzzled by the source of the battle. He could not understand why the Dark Phoenix would do such a thing. Why did you kill the crown prince of the spirit race? Why did you join the Western sect? Unable to figure it out, He wanted to find the Dark Phoenix to ask. However, he did not expect to encounter his ancient enemy Perfected Tai. After a quarrel, it turned into a huge battle. The evil dragon was no match for him. Just as he was about to be killed, the Black Dragon Elder of the ancient dragon race appeared at the critical moment and severely injured Perfected Tai with a tail. Hence, the disciples of Chan's school could not take it anymore. They were used to looking for face and forming factions. They looked for the ancient dragon race to seek justice. In the eyes of Zhuo Changlu and the others, this series of changes was dazzling. They could not understand it at all that they fought every day, and every time they opened their mouths, they would say that they had a deep hatred. It was really hard to understand how many grudges they had accumulated over the years. In any case, they could not keep up with it even if they were watching the show. Today you beat him, tomorrow he beat him, tomorrow you beat him, tomorrow you beat him, and the day after tomorrow he beat the other him. Then, they would focus on fighting. In the end, when Patriarch Nether River's primordial massacre sword was attacked, it was shot down by Guang Qingzi's heaven-flipping seal. The primordial massacre sword had old injuries. This time, it was almost beaten to the point of losing its spirituality. Nether River was besieged and fled with heavy injuries. The people of Chan's school wanted to kill him in one fell swoop, and chased after him relentlessly. They met the demon ancestor, Rahu, who came to help. After a huge battle, the demon race suffered countless casualties. The demon ancestor was furious. He raised the Peach Blossom Cave with his spear and overturned Guang Qingzi's Dao field. The god-slaying spear attacked with all its might and cracked half of the heaven-flipping seal. Guang Qingzi fled with heavy injuries. This battle really confirmed what kind of treasure was unparalleled in attack in this world. After that, Guang Qingzi was intercepted by Daoist Duobao on the way. Fortunately, Perfected Yu Ding and Yin Zhongzi arrived and saved Guang Qingzi, whose Dao had been greatly damaged. Behind him, Daoist Duobao asked leisurely via voice transmission, "Senior brother Guang Qingzi, do you still remember the goddess of golden light?" That sentence completely started the follow-up of the God-confirmant grudge. I don't understand. I don't understand at all. During this period of time, Zhuo Changlu would come over to play chess with the Flood, which whenever he had nothing to do. The few continents fought every day. Now the ones who were free were the Umno Alliance and the Astral Souls. The Dao League was first abandoned and fell into the hands of the demon race. Then, the mighty figures of the Dao League returned and expelled the demon race. It was really full of twists and turns. However, before the people who moved out of the Dao League could return, the entire Dao League continent turned into a chaotic battlefield for the various races. Moreover, it was one of the more intense battlefields. The demon race came to fight, the Jia school came to fight, the demon race came to fight, and the Western sect also came to fight. Now, it was the Azura race and the Spirit race's turn to be free. On the other hand, the Wizard Alliance continent and the Star Soul continent, which were originally filled with worries, had been peaceful during this period of time. The weather was good, and people lived and worked in peace and contentment. Nothing happened, other than the absence of the daily high-tech facilities to pass the time. Everything else was not much different from before the ancestral land was revived. Before the various races returned, would anyone believe it? Who would dare to believe it? The Flood Witch put down her chess piece gloomily. You don't understand? I can't understand it long ago. Otherwise, why would I ask you? The Flood Witch brought all the elites of the Umno Alliance back to the Umno Alliance continent, as if but was on fire last time. She actively prepared for war. However, there was only one battle with the demon race's outpost. Then, the demon race ignored her. The Flood Witch built the Brave Soul Pass and prepared for war. She even mobilized the forces of the Umno Alliance continent and urged the 12 great shamans to improve their cultivation. She held the whip with both hands and supervised them forcefully. The Fire Great Shaman and his wife were almost beaten into mud by her. The Ice Great Shaman was even more important. The Flood Witch almost changed her bad mouth. Now, as long as the Ice Great Shaman saw the Flood Witch, she would automatically stuff ice cubes into her mouth and then tie her up with a rope to ensure that nothing would go wrong. She was afraid that if she said something wrong, she would be punched for several days in a row. The Flood Witch made all the preparations for war, and gathered all the resources she could gather at the border. She was ready to welcome the war at any time, and was even prepared to die in battle. However, that there was only silence at the border. Nothing happened. They were just outside the border, fighting each other. They just didn't cross the line, and didn't want to have anything to do with the UMNO alliance. As a result, tens of millions of troops of the UMNO alliance looked up and watched the show all day. Occasionally, they would fight above their heads. But they just didn't want to come in. What could you do? Tens of millions of people were waiting for battle. How would you feel? But no matter what kind of drill or training you did, no one paid any attention to you when the 6 races were fighting fiercely outside. At first, the Flood Witch felt that there might be something wrong, and was careful to guard against any changes. Day after day passed. In the end, she was depressed by this situation. Chapter 1369. The Flood Witch didn't understand. That was why he had come to look for Zhuozhanglu. What the hell is going on? Do you know what this means? It means that we've been ignored by the higher-ups of the various races. They don't treat us as opponents. This hurts my pride. The Flood Witch was furious. What's wrong with looking down on me? How can they ignore me like this? I'm the #1 master in the world. Zhuozhanglu, on the other hand, was calm and unruffled in the midst of chaos. He picked up a white piece and made a break. It's better to hurt one's pride than to hurt one's life. I don't believe you're not upset. Not only do they not treat us as opponents, they don't even care about us. The Flood Witch had never been ignored like this in her life. She felt like her lungs were about to explode. She couldn't understand. All the masters of the various races have come back. Where are the masters of the Wu people? You humans should have top masters too. Where are the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors? Zhuozhanglu's face twisted. I really don't know. All in all, everything that's happened now is confusing and inexplicable. That's true. In the long run, it's not a problem. Zhuozhanglu put down a piece and said, but I have to say that now is the last period of self-improvement for the astral souls and the UMNO alliance. It's reasonable that the other races don't see us. We're far behind the other races in terms of high-end combat power and general standards. This is an indisputable fact. There are so many masters on the battlefield. Any one of them is no weaker than you or me. And there are many more who are much stronger than you and me. Based on this premise, why do they care about us? Haha, it's just that we don't have Tao immortals. They come from the ancient times, and have their own roots. They've been perfected golden immortals for a long time. We're just scattered perfected golden immortals. We're not real perfected golden immortals. That's all. The Flood Witch was somewhat disdainful. Isn't Tao immortal a term used by the Western sect? Zhuozhanglu was not as knowledgeable as the Flood Witch in this regard. After all, it had been thousands of years since the end of the world. Anything that could be passed down by the ancient humans had long been destroyed. More than that, the Flood Witch said, since ancient times, the heavenly Tao would bestow rewards to all cultivators who succeeded in their cultivation and passed the heavenly tribulation. Their bodies and souls would be tempered, and only then would they be considered to have attained the Tao immortal realm. The so-called celestial immortals, golden immortals, mystic immortals, etc., all belong to the Tao immortal realm. In other words, it is a recognition of one's cultivation status. With a single thought, the heavens and earth would immediately react. White clouds would naturally rise beneath one's feet. The so-called riding the clouds and riding the mist is a technique of the immortals. Since the splitting of the continent, the heavenly Tao has been incomplete. Therefore, it has lost part of the rules for the evaluation of higher-level cultivators. Even if we have succeeded in our cultivation and can travel thousands of miles in an instant, there are no auspicious clouds surging beneath our feet. This is the essential difference between us and them. The Flood Witch sighed. In terms of combat strength, we may not lose to cultivators of the same level. However, in terms of spiritual source, immortal power, and the power to mobilize the universe, we are greatly inferior. There is a clear distinction between the superior and the inferior. For example, you can easily destroy a mountain now, but can you easily create a mountain out of nothing? This is the fundamental difference. Zhuochanglu frowned and said, then this kind of gap should be able to be bridged in some way, right? Especially now that the ancestral land has regained its light. The Flood Witch pondered this question for a long time, but did not speak for a long time. For a long time, the two did not speak until the end of a game of chess. Zhuochanglu slaughtered the Flood Witch's dragon. On the chessboard, there were only a few sporadic black pieces, with one last breath left. All that could be seen was white. A complete victory. Moreover, it was an extremely humiliating victory. Zhuochanglu sighed comfortably. Playing chess with you is so satisfying. The Flood Witch rolled her eyes gloomily. I don't know how to play this game. It's hard for you to be so serious, and put in so much effort. Is it worth it? Wu Yuding sighed and sat aside. Watching the two of you play chess, I really feel sorry for Big Guy. You know that you are not good at chess, but you still insist on not admitting defeat every time. Usually, the outcome of the game can be seen before the middle of the game, but you still insist on holding on until the entire chessboard is full of chess pieces. Big Guy, you know that old Zhua is going through painstaking efforts just to kill you. The outcome of the game is already clear. Why are you still working so hard alone? Let's not talk about other things. Big Guy, your perseverance is really admirable. As long as there are pieces on the chessboard, no matter how slim the hope is, you will not admit defeat. Both of you are fucking geniuses. Both of you can make me swear. The Flood Witch was still studying the chessboard full of white pieces, and only a few sporadic black pieces. She held a black piece in her hand and said, as a warrior, as long as there is a breath left, we should fight endlessly. How can we stop fighting? As she spoke, she put down another piece. She wanted to play in the middle of the chessboard where there was almost no space. Zhuochanglu sighed and took away the chessboard. Floodmaster, you put down a piece in the chessboard where I have already made a real space. Not to mention that the rules of Go don't allow it. Even if I force you to play, you can't do it. There is really no way to play like this. Can you take a break? Alas, let's play chess. The Flood Witch took a sip of wine and said, we must win the game in chess. Half an hour later, Zhuochanglu, one chariot, one horse, one cannon and 3 pawns, moved side by side on the chessboard at the speed of a turtle. On the opposite side, the Flood Witch only had an old general left. There was nothing else. The old general was really bald, but the old general was still moving up and down in a straight line in the 9 squares. Moreover, both Zhuochanglu and Wu Yuding could see that the Flood Witch was seriously moving step by step. Wu Yuding covered her eyes and sighed. This is too much of a bully. This is too much of a bully. I really can't stand it anymore. Zhuochanglu precisely adjusted the direction of the chess pieces. He tried to arrange the 6 pieces in a line and move them down one by one. The Flood Witch was still supporting. Obviously, the word admit defeat never existed in his dictionary. Yu Dongtian came over to take a look. Then he picked his nose and left. He only dared to laugh after walking a long distance. Yu Xingchen, Qin Sha, Sword King, Yin Zhonghu, and the others were speechless. They watched the two people with the highest cultivation levels in the continent grinding back and forth on the chessboard. Was it interesting? He was clearly a general without an army, but he could still move for another half an hour. Finally, the Flood Witch's old general had nowhere to run. He was trapped to death. The Flood Witch pushed the chessboard aside and sighed. I've tried my best. God didn't bless me. I lost this game. Everyone covered their faces and was speechless. From the beginning of the game, you were hit by a chariot after 7 moves. It was obvious that you were going to lose. Yet, you could still sigh that you still had the nerve to say that God didn't bless you. What did this have to do with God or the heavenly Tao? This was really determined by one's strength. It's time to eat. Do you want a drink? Zhuochanglu's face was full of high spirits and complacency. He had won 2 games in a row, which made him particularly happy, especially when he was playing against the Flood Witch. I like your indomitable spirit in playing chess. Zhuochanglu praised sincerely. These were words that came from the bottom of his heart. There was no falsehood in them. If it were someone else, they would have already admitted defeat. It was absolutely impossible for them to win to their heart's content. Drink. The Flood Witch closed her eyes and pondered. Where did she lose in the game just now? Where was the key step? Now the world is this chessboard. Zhuochanglu comforted her. Now all sides are playing chess. The chess pieces are playing one by one, and it's not time for us to play yet. The Flood Witch nodded and said, I understand what you mean. The two of us are the old generals, or the two generals. Under normal circumstances, we can't act rashly unless it's an emergency. If we use up our strength too early, the continent behind us will no longer have a barrier to speak of. We can only be at the mercy of others. Zhuochanglu was dumbfounded. Is that what I mean? What I want to say is that our two races are not qualified to enter the game at all now. We need to further our studies and adapt to the ancestral land of the untainted world as soon as possible. However, thinking about the Flood Witch's words, it seemed to be a little reasonable. At this moment, the Flood Witch suddenly frowned. Zhuochanglu immediately raised his eyebrows. It was only then that everyone became vigilant together. But it was too late now. Or rather, it was meaningless to be vigilant earlier. After the thick white mist poured in, when the white mist dissipated, Zhuochanglu and the Flood Witch had already disappeared from the scene. Who is it? Wu Yuding unleashed her full aura and shattered the void around her. Then she shouted, Who is it? The void was silent, and there was no movement at all. Zhuochanglu and Flood Witch only felt dizzy in front of their eyes. When they came back to their senses, they found that they were already in a strange space. The two of them sat still and looked at each other. They understood each other's meaning. This space was set up by a master, and the two of them couldn't break it with their strength. Greetings, lay Buddhists. In the void, the mist dispersed, and a white-robed Taoist slowly walked over. This person had a kind and handsome face, and he was tall and straight. Following his arrival, it was as if the entire space was filled with benevolence and compassion. Greetings, Senior. The two of them stood up and returned the greeting. May I know your name, Senior? Where are you from? Why did you bring us here? I came from the west. When I saw the red light shrouding the sky, I stopped here for a moment to form a good relationship with the two lay Buddhists. Good relationship? Zhuochanglu frowned and said, Senior, please tell us your reason and give us your name. It's fate that brought us together. The so-called name is just a code. Why are you so obsessed with the false reputation? The white-robed Taoist smiled and said, I heard you talking about the difference between the Golden Immortal Realm and the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. I felt something in my heart and wanted to share it with you. Chapter 1370. Sense. Tell me more. With your cultivations, you can still be ranked among the top in the current ancestral land. However, without reaching the Tao realm, you can't enter the chessboard. It's difficult for you to be the chess player, and it's difficult for you to control yourself. The white-robed Taoist waved his hand, and a faint golden light quietly passed by. Zhuochanglu and the Flood Witch only felt that there was something extra in their minds. They actually had a subtle feeling of enlightenment. For a moment, the aura in their bodies fluctuated, and their current cultivation shackles were instantly broken. Immediately, the aura that had been accumulating for a long time soared into the sky, and dense smoke rose above their heads. In just a moment, the three flowers had already condensed, and the 5 qi converged. The sound of the great Tao quietly sounded in their hearts. Monk Bai's voice leisurely sounded. The world is suffering. I'm not talented, but I'm willing to use this body's power of will to open a line of the heavenly Tao. Only by attaining the Tao of Chaos Zenith Heaven will I have the chance to protect the world and save the people. Take care, the two of you. I'll take my leave. The Flood Witch stirred up her last bit of clarity and shouted, Who are you? The white-robed Taoist smiled faintly, retreated, and slowly disappeared in the white fog. An ethereal voice sounded. The ancient Zhu Wu didn't die. However, after losing the war of the shamans and demons, he was sealed in the Demon Emperor Palace under the Fusang tree. Now that the ancestral land has regained its light, and Pangu has opened the sky, it will definitely allow Zhu Wu to step into the mortal world and rise again. In an instant, the white fog dissipated, and the white-robed figure disappeared without a trace. Zhuo Changlu and the Flood Witch's aura was still surging, and they struggled to open their eyes, only to find that they had returned to their original positions. However, golden lightning flashed in the sky, and purple light shone. The great Tao Purple Heaven's divine thunder was about to fall. The breakthrough that the two of them had just achieved was real. And it wasn't an illusion. The two of them didn't even have time to explain before they flew up and left quickly, each looking for a place to transcend the tribulation to improve themselves and attain the zenith heaven realm. The white-robed Taoist only said a sentence and waved his hand, and the two of them broke through their original bottlenecks and attained the Tao. What kind of cultivation is this? What kind of power was this? Zhuo Changlu and the Flood Witch's hearts were only filled with shock and surprise. After all, it was an indisputable fact that both of them had broken through to the Tao validation realm. However, there was still one final hurdle that he had to overcome, and that was the heavenly tribulation had already arrived above his head. As the golden light rolled, strings of purple heaven godly thunder fell above the clouds. A white-robed monk slowly passed by and sprinkled golden rain onto the world above the continent of the Umno Alliance, and the continent of astral souls. That golden rain bathed the world. Sweet dew on the world. After experiencing the baptism of the golden rain, the countless ordinary people on the two continents all felt much more relaxed. Years of fatigue, illnesses, and hidden injuries all disappeared without a trace in this period of time. There were even many terminally ill patients who were on the verge of death, who were getting better and recovering. Many people with physical disabilities actually had their broken limbs regrow, looking no different from their original ones. And the ones who benefited the most were the martial artists. It was as if all of them had received a revelation, or were blessed with good fortune. Some martial artists who were at a loss had a clear direction of their great Tao. Countless martial artists who were stuck at bottlenecks were all inexplicably breaking through. The process was natural and smooth. All of this happened so abruptly, but it also seemed to be a matter of course. It seemed to be the benefits after the boundary between heaven and earth was broken. The human world once again had the opportunity to come into contact with the heavenly Tao, and once again had the qualifications to spy on the supreme deity position. Countless people whose origins were damaged and couldn't take another step forward found that they had the possibility to continue. Countless people who had reached the end of their lives suddenly felt that they could live for a few more years. The cultivators who had broken through during this incident found that their breakthroughs now seemed to be different from before, that it seemed that their power was greater, and their foundations were more profound. Moreover, they could mobilize the power of heaven and earth. Everything was showing a huge change. In the frontline army, strange phenomena kept flashing. Batches of soldiers and martial artists soared into the sky and broke through the heavenly tribulation. That the entire world seemed to have fallen into an endless dazzling display of fireworks. It was magnificent and boundless. The rumbling sounds were not inferior to that of the day when the three continents returned. The strength of the two continents showed a trend of collective enhancement, and it was a collective enhancement that was somersaulting. The rumbling of the heavenly thunder of purple heaven continued for an unknown period of time until late at night. On this day, the 9 clans unanimously chose to stop fighting. The main thing was that there was really no way to fight. There was tribulation lightning everywhere. How could they fight? Start a war? Weren't they afraid of being implicated by the tribulation lightning? That day the entire world was celebrating. Everyone was talking and laughing happily, feeling happy and happy. They were all praising that the Buddha had appeared. This day was called the Day of Opening by countless later generations. On Mount Kunlun, in the Jade Void Palace, a Taoist floated out and stared at the sky. A solemn expression flashed across his face. Consuming the Tao fruit to reopen heaven and earth, and establish a connection with the great Tao. Is Kundi planning to reopen earth, fire, water, and wind? But it doesn't seem like it. But this way the great Tao of life is a little off. What should I do? It's still the same unscrupulous method from back then. It's really annoying. The Taoist frowned, somewhat displeased. A 9 dragons agarwood carriage floated out. 2 white cranes shook their bodies and transformed into 2 boys, standing in front of the Taoist. The Taoist floated into the agarwood carriage. The 9 divine dragons raised their heads at the same time and sped away. On the other side, a majestic sword beam rose from Green Turing Palace. The Grand Master of Heaven carried a long sword on his back and left the island alone. Even further away, a white-robed Taoist sighed softly. Junior brother, you still haven't given up." With a long sigh, a colorful cloud rose under the white-robed Taoist's feet as he left leisurely. Fiend ancestor Rahu only felt a black light flickering above his head. The demonic clouds became dense as the god-slaying spear pierced through the void. "All right, since I'm already out, wouldn't it be a pity if I don't take a look?" At the same time, Dong Huang Tai, Demon Emperor Jun, and Demon Empress Shihi also sensed it. They sighed. The means of a saint. They all rode on clouds and rose. The Nether River Patriarch soared into the sky from the Blood River, mixed with a red light, and entered the void. Above the 9 heavens, that the people who were chatting and laughing were suddenly stunned. What's going on? The leader, a graceful woman, smiled softly. The myriad of worlds are based on humans. Why do we need to be schemed by others? Everyone laughed, and the stunned atmosphere from before was instantly swept away. However, the location of the small sword. The woman stretched out her hand, and a 5-colored stone turned into a beam of light and pierced through the sky. On the ground in the spirit forest, the spirit emperor rose and also headed in a direction. On the ground, Chan Sheng gritted his teeth and looked at the 7-colored light in the sky. He looked at the dense purple heaven divine thunder in the sky and hesitated for a moment. Finally, he chose to soar into the sky and head to a certain place. Could it be that I'll be left behind again this time? The continent of astral souls. Above Shangjing City, at an unknown height in the void, the white-robed Taoist smiled faintly and bowed. "Today my thoughts are clear." His face was pale, and he sat on the cloud to regulate his breath. Then he sat like that, and a white cloud took him away slowly. He was heading in the same direction as everyone else. Underground, a ball of white light flashed directly from the ground. In an instant, the entire nameless valley bloomed at the same time, turning into a paradise. A woman's figure rose from the white light and soared into the sky. "All my brothers are not here. This is unfair. For the last time, use the identity of a shaman." The woman's face was full of determination. Her eyes were clear as she soared into the sky. Above the sea, Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxianyan had been circling around here for many days. For some reason, they just couldn't get out. Zhuoxiaoduo had absorbed most of the Taoist connotation of yin and yang that he had obtained before. He believed that he could finish absorbing it in 2 or 3 days. Because of the Taoist connotation of yin and yang, Zhuoxiaoduo didn't pay much attention to the suspected predicament in front of them. It would be better if they could get out of here. If they couldn't, they would wait until they had finished absorbing all the Taoist connotation. Zhuoxiaoduo had a thought. Was it because the Taoist connotation of yin and yang was so powerful that heaven and earth created a predicament to trap them? As long as they didn't absorb all the Taoist connotation, they wouldn't be able to get out. Don't tell me I guessed it right. Is it really because of the Taoist connotation of yin and yang? That's weird. Zhuoxiaoduo was a little speechless. How long have we been trapped in this broken place? I don't know. There is no sense of time around here. We've been living in a daze. That's right. The 2 of them were completely at a loss of what to do. At this moment, a magnificent sword light came from the sky. It was the sect leader of Tongtian. Coincidentally, he saw the 2 of them wandering around like headless flies. He couldn't help but laugh. "Why are you 2 here? Are you lost?" Zhuoxiaoduo was overjoyed when he heard the sect leader of Tongtian's voice. He knew that he had met his savior. "I don't know how we got trapped here." "Ha ha ha." The sect leader of Tongtian laughed. He didn't move, but the sword light suddenly flashed and cut the Taoist connotation. He casually rolled it up, and a picture appeared in the air and floated down. The sect leader of Tongtian glanced at it and sighed softly. He threw it to Zhuoxiaoduo. When Zhuoxiaoduo was about to catch it, the picture automatically merged into his body. Zhuoxiaoduo was stunned. "What is this?" In the space of consciousness, a voice suddenly sounded. You are the one who is a thing. Your whole family is a thing. Zhuoxiaoduo's eyes widened. Fuck. Before he could explain, he heard the sect leader of Tongtian sigh. I didn't expect eldest senior brother to leave such a backup plan. However, he still left in a hurry. If he can't wait to get rid of everything on him, and leave so easily. Humph. The sect leader of Tongtian was obviously dissatisfied. The unwillingness in his words was obvious. You're leaving just like that? Aren't you going to settle the score from back then? That old thing beat me up so happily back then. Now you're leaving just like that? Could it be that you beat me up back then? For nothing? Indeed, you took advantage of me. Even if you're the eldest brother, you didn't do a good job back then. You were biased and even ganged up with outsiders to beat me up. Now you're leaving without saying a word? The sect leader of Tongtian snorted angrily. He felt very uncomfortable. He only felt a faint pain on his spine. It seemed that someone was beating him with a cane. I'm a saint too. Do you think I'll be beaten up like that? Don't I care about my reputation? Just because I'm the youngest, you can act like the eldest brother? Chapter 1371. The more Tongtian thought about it, the more unhappy he became. He thought of the immortal slaying array, and the old man hitting his back with his crutch, leaving marks on his back. His heart became more and more sour. If his eldest brother was still here, it would be fine. After all, he would have to talk about it one day. But now, he really felt that his eldest brother was gone. He had left this starry sky and would never come back. What should I do if I get beaten up? The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. Taking a step back was simply too humiliating. Tongtian, who could not think clearly, roared at the sky. Shame on you. You just left like that? Am I that easy to bully? Tongtian's aura shook the void, and layers of cracks appeared in the endless void. His roar shook the void, and his power was so powerful. On the clouds in the sky, a yellow talisman was faintly discernible. It seemed that it would disappear at any time. Well, it should be said that if Tongtian's sect leader did not ask this question, the talisman would have disappeared along with Zhuoxiaoduo's absorption of the yin-yang fish's aura. However, as soon as Tongtian asked the question, the talisman drifted down from the sky. Only then did the prime of Tongtian's face look a little better, as he muttered to himself. Zhuoxiaoduo did not hear anything, but he could guess that Tongtian would say something like, "At least you still have some conscience and know to leave an explanation. Otherwise, humph." But the next moment, Tongtian's face became uglier and uglier. He threw the talisman at his feet angrily and stomped it twice. He scolded angrily. This is really eye-opening. Eldest brother, you always treat me like this. Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxiaonian were standing on one side. In order to show that his eldest brother was apologizing to him, Tongtian did not hide anything. Even the words written on the talisman paper were clearly seen by Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxiaoduan. However, it was precisely because they could see it clearly that the two of them almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. There was only one sentence written on the talisman. Go and find second brother about what happened. There were only 8 words. They were clear, clear, and clear. And the meaning of the words was also clear and clear. If he did not feel the lingering Taoist rhyme on the talisman, Zhuoxiaoduo would most likely think that it was written by Yu Dongtian. This blame was thrown away cleanly, decisively, and freely. Tongtian, a man who had survived countless periods of time, had his face turned livid with rage. If it were someone else, he would not be angry. Instead, he would smile. After all, other people were not worthy of his attention. However, eldest senior brother's words had completely shattered all of his self-restraint and poise, leaving not a single bit behind. He was this old thing. He did not forget. He had intended to go back on his words. But he could not do anything. Your grandpa is indeed your grandpa. Big brother is also the same. Otherwise, he would be the big brother. I don't believe you. I will I. How long can you deny it? The Grandmaster of Heaven grabbed the talisman under his feet again, smoothed it with his hand, and put it in his arms. His actions were actually a little like Zhuoxiaoduo's subordinates, Li Chenglong, And the others, when they had to repay the debt in this lifetime. I didn't do this because I valued what you left behind. It's because you asked me to settle the score with second brother. This is proof. The Grand Master of Heaven snorted and turned to Zhuo. Xiaoduo, what did you see? Zhuo and Zhuo stood side by side and shook their heads vigorously. They were like two rattles. We didn't see anything. This time, the two of them did not discuss anything beforehand. They just acted subconsciously based on their instincts. They had an abnormal tacit understanding and were in sync. Since eldest senior brother has chosen to give you the yin-yang fish taiji diagram and left the two of you here at the sage's meeting, it means that he wants you to represent him. No wonder he left in such a hurry. Don't tell me you're naive enough to think that you can be considered your person just because you gave him something? The Grand Master of Heaven was still indignant. Let's go. I'll take you to the meeting. With a flash of sword light, he had already brought Zhuo and Zhuo into the sky. When you get there, remember to speak less. Try not to speak. The Grand Master of Heaven reminded him. Of course, I'll try my best not to speak. Zhuo promised solemnly. The Grand Master of Heaven believed him. Reality proved that he had indeed known Zhuo for too short a time. This time, those who attended the meeting, such as Zhuo, were like poor people who had entered a treasure mountain. When they saw many rich people, how could they not open their mouths and ask for some benefits? Along the way, the Grand Master of Heaven seemed to have a lot on his mind. He had lost his usual calmness. That's right. The heavenly secrets were chaotic and unpredictable. The future was unpredictable. However, everything had just begun. Why did eldest senior brother take the initiative to leave? Why? It was fine if he left. But why did he leave behind the yin-yang fish taiji painting and give it to Zhuo? Leaving behind the yin-yang fish and the taiji painting was equivalent to giving Zhuo the identity of an agent of Ren school. Through the conversation along the way, the Grand Master of Heaven easily found out that Zhuo had never interacted with his eldest senior brother. In other words, they were total strangers, and had never met each other before. The Grand Master of Heaven even judged that before he returned, his eldest senior brother did not know about the existence of such a little fellow. However, how long had it been? Did he pass down the yin-yang fish? For no reason? He also took action on the decision to leave the ancestral land. The Grand Master of Heaven did not believe that his eldest senior brother, who had always been mature and prudent, would make such an important decision rashly. Now, it was the immeasurable calamity. It was the calamity of heaven and earth. It was also a chance encounter. Then, what reason did eldest senior brother make such a decision? Could it be a bet? Even if it was a bet, it would not be right. In that case, could it be that Zhuan wanted to stay out of it because he had opened the sky? This time, Zhuan opened the sky and connected the heavens to the earth. It could be said to be a great creation. Naturally, a great merit would follow. However, this matter was fundamentally going against the trend. It was not in line with the original intention of the tribulation. It would definitely cause a backlash. However, this backlash had to be borne by the few people involved in the situation. Eldest senior brother had been eliminated in advance. In terms of the outcome, he had escaped the vortex. He did not want merit, and instead transcended the shackles. Could that be the reason? Thinking about it, it makes sense. There are only two of them. Once they pack up and leave, how can there be any karma to find them? However, he left freely. We will inevitably be dragged in by Zhuan. Who knows what we will face? The Grand Master of Heaven felt depressed and became increasingly unhappy. What made him even more unhappy was that he had clearly placed a heavy bet on the backup plan that he had thought highly of. Now, his eldest senior brother had intercepted him halfway. The most terrible thing was that he had only placed a heavy bet. Eldest senior brother had directly placed a heavy bet. He had even thrown the yin-yang fish, which had been born from the creation plate, and was related to the great Tao that once he left. He even took the two people from Ren school away without a trace. However, he left that kid on the path that he had to pass by. It was obvious that he wanted him to bring him to the meeting. Doesn't that mean that the kid will represent Rin's school? To the Grand Master of Heaven, that was like 100,000 horses galloping past. I thought highly of him. I placed the bet in advance. I helped him cultivate the yin-yang fish. I helped him accept the Taiji painting. I brought him there. I did all the work. Everything was mine. In the end, it was baffling. Did he go on behalf of you? In the end, all the benefits would belong to Rin's school and you. Eldest senior brother? What would I become then? Do you think I'm a tool? Eldest senior brother, you've really had enough of eating people. You're a lone wolf that fights 9 by 9 and doesn't fight +1. Eldest senior brother, you've eaten everything and still have to pack it up. All the benefits are now yours. Do you still want me to say that eldest senior brother is indeed worthy of being me? I'm amazing. But why should I listen to your arrangements? Should I be yours? You haven't paid me back what you owe me. Now you're taking advantage of the situation and ordering me to do so many things that how can there be a big brother like you? I'm amazing. He cursed in his heart countless times. But he still had to do what he had to do. I can't really let him go, right? Otherwise I'll be him. That's a good name. However, the unhappiness in his heart had already reached the point where it could topple mountains and overturn seas. He's too much of a bully. He's too much of a bully. I've been bullied by him for my entire life. I've fallen into his schemes every step of the way. I'm also a saint, all right? The Grand Master of Heaven sighed and said gloomily. I'm on the same level as you. He added an extra exclamation mark. The main thing was that he called himself I, which was double the reason. Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxianyan were like two little quails, following behind the Grand Master of Heaven silently. They did not dare to say a word. The two of them really did not understand what was wrong with this Grand Master of Heaven. Ever since he saw the two of them, he had been gloomy and had a lot on his mind. There was also a kind of gloomy feeling. The two of us did not offend him. We especially did not dare to offend him. Although I feel that I've improved a lot now. It seems like I can do it again. But it depends on who I'm compared to. Compared to the Grand Master of Heaven, it seems like I'm still a little bit not that good. You have to keep this Tai Chi diagram well. With your current cultivation, you can't activate it. The Grand Master of Heaven was depressed for a long time. Finally, he decided to work honestly. The first step was naturally to hand over the treasures. Eldest senior brother's method is too hasty. Too hasty? The Grand Master of Heaven sighed. Could it be because he's too hasty? That's why he passed down the Tai Chi diagram. This old thing is really not a good thing. I still have to clean up your mess when we arrive. Is it because I'm an honest person? Is an honest person guilty of something? Did an honest person eat your rice? This was even more unreasonable. To be honest, he did eat his rice. He brought Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxianyan with him. He was so angry that his stomach was about to burst. Chapter 1372. Outside the 9 heavens. It was a strange place. It was a palace. It was as if it was made of immortal spiritual energy. It was illusory but real. The 9 dragons' agarwood carriage was the first to arrive. Primeval Beginning floated out and stepped into the main hall. The main hall was empty. Countless auspicious clouds floated around. Seeing that there was no one else in the main hall, Primeval Beginning stood at the door with his hands behind his back. There was a hint of worry and heaviness in his eyes. The second one to arrive was a white-robed monk. He was handsome and tall. When he saw Yuanshi, who had arrived first, he cupped his hands and smiled helplessly. Teacher is not in the Purple Night Taoist Palace now, but everyone still has to come here. Isn't it too formal and too rigid? Primeval Beginning said indifferently. There has to be a place that everyone recognizes. If it's in my Jade Mirage Palace, will you go? The white-robed monk smiled. I have scruples, but it doesn't mean that I can't go. But it doesn't mean that I have to go. Yuanshi said faintly. Jane, you have been scheming until today. Now that your junior brother has done such a thing, how is your Western sect going to seize the fate and steal the sky and the sun? Jane said. Mercy is the heart. Deliver all living beings from suffering. Eliminate all misfortune and suffering. Primeval Beginning looked up at the sky. The moonlight today is not bad. He had forcefully changed the topic of conversation. At the right time, a ball of red light shot up to the 9 heavens. However, when it was about to break through the sky, it was caught by a ball of gray fog and a black light. Finally, the 3 lights met. It seemed like a coincidence, but everyone knew what was going on. Chan Sheng, one of the 3 lights, was shocked. He looked at one of the other 2 lights. He clenched his teeth so hard that they almost broke. It's this person again. This time he met him again. After countless years they met again. He was his best friend. Although he did not meet the other one this time. The guy with the black aura was much more ferocious than the one from back then. Azura Styx, demon ancestor Rahu. Chan Sheng took a deep breath and forced himself to be expressionless. Fellow Taoist, where are you going? The Nether River Patriarch, who was dressed in red robes, looked at the Taoist before him suspiciously, vaguely feeling a sense of familiarity. However, he had clearly never seen it before. There was nothing familiar about the aura, but looking at it as a whole, it felt familiar. Wasn't this very strange? Chan Sheng looked at this old friend of his. His heart was in turmoil, and he had mixed feelings. Back then, when he listened to the Tao in the Purple Cloud Palace, he originally had a great creation. However, because of a mistake, he gave Zhuan Ti and offended the Kuanpeng. His body was shattered by the Kuanpeng. Originally, he wanted to seek refuge with his old friend Styx, but he didn't expect to be schemed against by Styx. The various sufferings of the past, the ups and downs. Now that he thought about it, he still couldn't close his eyes in peace. Now that tens of thousands of years had passed, he finally reincarnated and cultivated again with great difficulty, and entered the path of Tao again. He did not dare to provoke any karma, so he worked hard and focused on cultivating Tao. He did not expect that when the opportunity to return to the Purple Cloud Palace came, he would run into this old friend he had not seen in a long time. At this moment, Chan Sheng's heart was burning with anxiety. Wherever you go, I will go, Chan Sheng said calmly. He actually wanted to welcome him with a smile, and try his best not to cause any trouble to avoid disputes. However, as long as he thought of the past, and how his suffering for so many years was almost all caused by the person in front of him, he could not suppress that anger no matter what. The moment he saw him, his internal organs seemed to be about to explode. The Patriarch of the Nether River sneered and said, Fellow Taoist, it seems that you have a deep grudge with me, the Nether River. However, you are so unfamiliar. May I ask which fellow Taoist you are? Did you reincarnate after being expiated by me? The Patriarch of the Nether River was also an old fox. After thinking for a while, he guessed a little. Chan Sheng narrowed his eyes and said, You are arrogant. Do you think you can expiate me? The Patriarch of the Nether River sneered and said, Fellow Taoist, you are wrong. Throughout the ancient and modern times, there are very few people who the Nether River, wanted to expiate. Whether you expiated me in your previous life or not, you will definitely expiate me in this life. With the Patriarch of the Nether River's status and strength, his words were not considered a threat, especially now that he had confirmed that Chan Sheng was full of malice towards him. In this world of great battles, he naturally had to take advantage of the fact that he had a firm victory over the other party to get rid of him as soon as possible. How could he give the other party a chance to grow stronger? Chan Sheng trembled with anger and said, Nether River, how vicious you are. The Patriarch of the Nether River smiled faintly, but his eyes flashed with anger. He slowly stretched out his hand, and the infinite pain sword suddenly appeared. A gourd also appeared, and the mouth of the gourd was aimed at Chan Sheng. He said calmly, Fellow Taoist, I am very interested in your true identity. Are you still not willing to tell me? Chan Sheng laughed sternly and said, Nether River, give up on your evil intentions. After saying that, he suddenly flipped his hands, and a huge seal appeared between his palms. It was ready to be released, and its aura was not weak at all. The demon ancestor Rahu said impatiently, How big is the grudge? Do you have to make a move at this time? After the Purple Cloud Palace is done, how much time is not enough for you to mess around? Do you have to waste time at this time? The demon ancestor was furious. Moreover, it hurt his pride. Back then, he was the oldest person in terms of seniority, and was at the same time as Hong Jun. He did not expect that he would need to come to the Purple Cloud Palace today, that the demon ancestor did not want to come at all. However, he had no choice but to come. Listen to the Tao. Of course, that was impossible. However, what happened this time was extraordinary. That was because the calamity this time was not arranged by the heavenly Tao, nor was it set up by the patriarch of Hong Jun. It was an immeasurable calamity. There were too many things involved. There were the lives and deaths of various races, and there was the luck of the heavenly Tao. Rahu did not care about the lives and deaths of the demons. However, he cared about the luck of the heavenly Tao. Even if the demons could leave a demon behind, that was because the demons were still around. However, if all the demons died, and he was the only one left, his foundation would be greatly damaged. Even if he could create demons with his immeasurable cultivation, it would take a long time, and he would suffer a great loss. In that gap, he might not even have the ability to protect himself, because his roots had been shaved. What he wanted to discuss this time was the fate of the various races, after Zhuan-Ti did something that was similar to opening the sky again. If he did not go, it was very likely that he would be eliminated. Thinking of that, he had to go even more. Thinking of that, he felt even more aggrieved. Therefore, the demon ancestor's temper was extremely bad. These two fellows actually wanted to fight here? If they delayed, those fellows over there would not wait for anyone. Let's go, let's go. The Nether River Patriarch was clearly very afraid of the demon ancestor Rahu. He was one of the few existences who had the confidence to kill him directly. He hurriedly changed his words. Chan Sheng heaved a sigh of relief. Although he was furious, he knew that the gap between him and Mingyi was not small. He was definitely not the opponent's match. Perhaps he would lose his life as soon as they fought. Now that there was no need to fight, he was naturally relieved. The three of them, demon ancestor Rahu was in front, Mingyi was behind, and Chan Sheng was at the end. They headed toward outer space. After walking less than half the distance, light filled the sky ahead. Dong Huang Tai, Demon Emperor Jun, and Demon Empress Shihi stepped out of the void. 3 against 3. They were all stunned. Demon Emperor Jun stood with his hands behind his back and said lightly, "The demon ancestor and the nether ancestor have been in a good mood recently." Rahu said lightly, "Are you in a good mood?" Emperor Jun's eyes flashed coldly. "After this, the god-slaying spear will have to experience it." Rahu snorted coldly and narrowed his eyes. Dong Huang Tai looked at the Nether River Patriarch and said lightly, "Nether River, if you want to do anything in the future, say it clearly. I'll play with you. The first-generation Patriarch is sneaking around. It's really not presentable." The Nether River Patriarch's face flushed red. He gritted his teeth and said, "Tai, how dare you insult me?" He and the demon ancestor were the first batch of chaos creatures. Although Emperor Jun and Dong Huang were also Khanate chaos creatures, it was true that they were later than Rahu and Mingyi. They were indeed half a generation older. "Junior? Senior?" Tai mocked. "If I call you martial uncle, would you dare to accept this karma?" The Nether River was speechless. How much karma did martial uncle Dong Huang have? Dong Huang dared to call him that, but the Nether River dared not accept it. Moreover, the Azura tribe had been beaten to a pulp. Even the Yuan killer sword that suppressed the Azura tribe's providence had not recovered. The Nether River Patriarch's confidence was almost gone. He dared not accept it even more. Shiha smiled gently at the side and said, "Uncle Luo Ho, are we really going to fight to the point of extinction? Are you willing to attack me?" Rahu smiled kindly and said, "Don't worry, little Shihi. You're safe at all times. With me here. As long as you don't want to die. Even if Hong Jun wants you dead, he can't do it." When Mingyi and Toad Saint saw his smile, they jumped in fright. What the fuck? Oh my god. The demon ancestor Rahu could smile. "Thank you, Uncle Rahu. I knew you were the best to me." Shihi smiled sweetly. The demon ancestor Rahu smiled faintly, looking high-spirited. "Umph." The demon emperor Jun snorted. "What are you snorting for?" The demon ancestor frowned, and was about to pull out the god-slaying spear. He pointed at the demon ancestor and scolded, "Look at you. You've never been a good person." Do you think I'm afraid of you? The demon emperor was furious and was about to attack. However, the demon empress stopped him. Both sides tried to persuade each other. So, humph, humph. The demon empress she couldn't help but smile bitterly. She was different. Back then, when she had just transformed, she had formed a karma with Rahu. Rahu had inexplicably become kind and protected Shihi's transformation. Thus a strange scene appeared. A beautiful little girl followed an impatient Xiantian great demon lord around every day, sweetly calling him uncle, that the great devil was extremely impatient. He wanted to chase the little girl away every day, but the little girl refused to leave. The great devil scratched his hair every day in frustration. However, if other gods and demons bullied the little girl, the great devil would go to their door and destroy them. These days lasted for a long time. It also led to the miracle of Shihi, a little girl, being able to barge into the chaos sea alone. Everyone knew that this little girl had an extremely awesome and unreasonable madman behind her, who would dare to provoke her. Although they separated later, the demon ancestor still remembered that cute little crow. If there were any good memories in the life of the demon ancestor Rahu, the demon empress Shihi was undoubtedly one of them. And it was the most important one. It was a kind of pure care. It was as if he had a cute daughter. Later on, the demon ancestor became more and more disobedient. He chased Shihi out and disappeared completely. He was afraid that one day, his demonic nature would erupt, and he would not be able to control himself and kill her. Then, Shihi crossed the chaos sea and returned to the Fusang divine tree while crying. Only then did she realize that 2 more 3-legged golden crows had appeared after she left. The big Dijun had already transformed, while the small Tai was only half transformed. He had a crow head, a human body, 3 legs, 3 feet, 1 wing, and the other hand. He took a step and fell. He was so stupid that it made one's hair stand on end. Hence, Shihi took good care of him and guided him carefully. That was how Tai Donghuang was born. Therefore Donghuang Tai never dared to disobey Shihi. Sometimes, when Dijun and Shihi quarreled or fought, Tai would always stand on Shihi's side, regardless of right or wrong. The demon empress said, "Beat him up." Tai carried the chaos bell and attacked. This was the friendship that he had developed in the past. I'm off topic. Speaking of fiend ancestor Rahu, it was precisely because of the demon empress Shihi that the old demon had never liked Dijun in his life. He kept feeling that this damned crow had snatched his treasure. Every time he saw him, he felt that this kid was not a good person. When Dijun established the demon court, fiend ancestor Rahu would cause trouble at any time. Moreover, Dijun was slightly weaker at that time and had been beaten up many times. However, he had never lost his life. However, Dijun was not convinced. He was filled with resentment towards fiend ancestor Rahu. "Why are you, a demon, stirring up trouble in our demon race's matters? Do you know that you're meddling in other people's business?" Therefore, every time he saw Rahu, he could not help but want to fight. Of course, now that he was stronger, the fiend ancestor did not want to fight with him. In short, the grudges at that time were right and wrong, that he was still alive and could still be counted. At their level, as long as one of them did not want to fight to the death, there would basically be no hatred of death. On the other hand, fiend ancestor Rahu did not want to fight anymore. One of the reasons was naturally Shihi. Another reason why fiend ancestor Rahu did not want to fight was that if Demon Emperor Dijun and Donghuang Tai joined forces, he seemed to be no match for them. Although he would not die, he would definitely be beaten up or both sides would be injured. This would hurt his pride. If he was beaten up by the Donghuang brothers in front of Shihi, to the fiend ancestor, it would be better to fight with Hongjun himself. Although the latter choice might lead to death in battle, it was better than being beaten into a pig's head in front of Shihi. However, the demon race and the demon race were natural enemies. The rise of the demon race had squeezed out the living space of the demon race, and the fiend ancestor needed the heavenly Tao luck of the demon race. Therefore, some battles could not be avoided. This caused everyone to be unable to understand what was going on. It was so complicated that it could be written into 100,000 episodes of Family Ethics TV series. In fact, If there was a TV series like Husband D. June and Uncle Rahu, it was estimated that the two of them would not reconcile until the end of time. Every opening line was classic. You scoundrel. He was really blind to find someone like you. It's none of your business. Then they started fighting. Then, it would repeat infinitely. Uncle Rahu, are you going to the Purple Cloud Palace too? Demon Empress he greeted warmly. Then shall the six of us go together? Humph. Okay. Humph. Okay. It's 2 in 1. It's impossible for there to be more tonight. These guys are still at my place. I still have to barbecue tonight. I'm so angry. In the morning, everyone gathered money for a party, and tonight, it was my treat. And they even broke my phone. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.